that's kind of cool idea that Earth is becoming Unicron, and then the movie ended. And I'm like, I
Oh
hope
my
they go with
god,
that. Yeah.
I was wrong. Unicron was Earth all along. You finally made a gorilla out of me.
Too much energy. Yes. 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 Oh, yes. Yes.
Greetings, Cybertronians. Welcome back to Too Much Energon, the Lasercomb podcast where we talk about Beast Wars shit and talk shit about Beast Wars. I'm one of your hosts, Christopher Siege.
I'm your other host, NeoCal.
And I'm Dan.
Oh,
Hello.
hello.
Hello. Hey, it's
Hello.
me, Dan from WTFamicom.
Sweet. We have a guest, Dan from the What the Famicom podcast. This is episode 50 of Too Much Energon. And wow, 50 episodes.
Yeah, congratulations.
Can you fucking believe it?
No.
Do you want to believe it?
I want to believe.
50
It's
episodes.
hard to.
Like
but
such
I
a
want to.
milestone for you guys.
It is a big milestone. It's also interesting too because today we're recording at the time of recording it's July 29th. It is 1 year shy or 1 day shy of being 1 year since we recorded the first episode of Too Much Energon.
Wow.
So not only is it 50 episodes, it's also an anniversary of sorts.
Yeah.
Raise the roof.
I wanted to get
Raise
like a party hat and like streamers and stuff, but like couldn't find them. To be fair,
I'm wearing a Transformers shirt for the occasion.
Oh, nice. There you go.
And I have a surprise. I have this giant Transformers book that I have.
Holy shit.
I've had this since like 2012 or 13. I bought it off Amazon. And full disclosure, I'm not like a huge Transformers head. Like, I don't love it. I casually like it, but I love Beast Wars. And so having a shirt and a giant book, it made it seem like I'm like a super fan, but I'm really not. Like, I know the movies and stuff like that, but when I got this book, whatever, and I read more about Beast Wars, and I think through this book was the first time I read that there was toys, there was a comic, there was the Japanese show. I'm like, wait, it like blew my mind. I'm like, wait, hold on. It's not just a 3-season show where some shit happens. So it kind of threw me off.
A 3-season show where Cheetor says some Cheetor bullshit.
Yeah, basically. That's what that's the description in the book. There's only one page. It just says that.
That's where we got it from. Yeah.
That's like Cheetor's character bio. Cheetor says some Cheetor bullshit.
Yeah.
Cheetor is a cheetah man. He is young and goes fast and says some Cheetor bullshit.
But in the book, the text is all big, so that's why it takes up a full page. Oh, giant font.
This is Cheetor. Watch Cheetor run.
I've long suspected that, like, Dan, you're kind of adding fuel to this fire. I've long suspected that like hardcore Transformers fans would not like our podcast because
maybe not.
Because we're like fucking eye lasers, like Gorilla Man and Rhinox is a beer drinking trucker.
Well, first off, I love your impersonation of Rhinox. I love I love all your guys' impersonations because they're pretty dead on, to be honest. Like, they're actually really good. But yeah, because your main thing in the beginning is we talk shit about Beast Wars.
Yeah.
And I feel like if somebody's looking for a Transformers podcast, they're like, oh my God, I live and breathe Transformers. And they listen to an episode and that starts it off. They're like, this is heresy. I don't like, they get offended by that.
I bet these assholes like War for Cybertron Kingdom too.
Yeah, they're probably like, yeah, I bet these guys like this instead of that. Yeah.
And we do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do. That's actually something else I wanted to point out. I know it's like a complete like coincidence. It's a insane coincidence, but the fact that we're recording episode 50 of Too Much Energon the very day that the Beast formers come back in War for Cybertron
Beast
Kingdom
formers, I like that a lot.
the Beast formers are back for the first time in like over 2 decades on the same day that we're recording episode 50 of Too Much Energon.
So if
Like I said,
anyone's out of
crazy
if anyone's out of
coincidence,
the loop,
but it feels like it
Kingdom.
was kind of meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't plan it. We
No,
don't plan
we
anything.
didn't.
For anyone listening that's for some reason listening to us but not watching War for Cybertron on Netflix, Kingdom, the third part of War for Cybertron, came out the day we're recording this, and we all watched some episodes of it, and man, so nice seeing them back.
It's
really is.
awesome. It's
like
really
spoilers. It's the characters from Beast Wars.
Yeah, they didn't change their look. They maybe glossed them up a little bit, but they look identical to what they did on Beast Wars.
I love them.
Yeah.
I love them.
They're great. Yeah. I'm so for the listeners, we all kind of have like a like waterfall, like cascading effect of number of episodes we watch. So there's 6 episodes of War for Cybertron Kingdom. Cal,
Invisible coffee.
not enough energon in that coffee cup. No,
Not anymore.
it has Shockwave's cloaking device.
Spoiler.
Oh shit.
Oh, no.
Cal, I believe Cal, you have watched all 6 episodes of Kingdom, yes?
Yes, the benefit of being sick and not having a real job is I can do something like that.
Dan, you've watched 5, correct?
I've watched 5 of them, and I think I just got done the 5th one, like right before we started recording. So.
I have watched 4, and I just got done the 4th right before we started recording. Today, I get up 5 days a week for work at like 5:15 in the morning.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for like I've been doing it for like over 2 years now, so I'm kind of used to it at this point. Even on my days off, I wake up super early. But today I woke up at like 4:30, like just not intentionally or anything, but like just randomly. I woke up at like 4:30, and I'm like, oh, I'll try to go back to bed, and then I'm like, wait a minute, Kingdom's on. Kingdom's out on Netflix. So I got up and like threw on a bathrobe and came into the computer room and sat and watched. I'm like, okay, if I really hurry when I'm showering and like getting ready and everything, I think I can squeeze in 2 episodes before I have to go to leave to get to work. And I just barely made it. So I got up like a child on Saturday morning.
On Christmas, yeah.
Yeah, I got up super early just to watch the new Transformers cartoon, the new Beast Wars cartoon specifically.
But would you say it was worth getting up at 4:30 in the morning for?
100%.
Okay.
I tweeted about it earlier. Follow me on Twitter at Lazorcomb, LAZORCOMB. I tweeted about it on Twitter that I had a lot of thoughts after watching 2 episodes, and most of them are positive. I only really have a couple of complaints, and that continues even into episodes 3 and 4. Episode 3 is fucking great.
I think I really only have one real complaint, and it'll probably last. I only have 1 episode left, but I'm sure the complaint goes into it. But yeah, I only have one thing that I don't like about it throughout the whole show.
Okay, so like, why don't we get into talking about that? So like, what are your guys's like? What do you like about the show so far?
Well, to be clear before we dive into it, we're going to be vague enough that we can talk about impressions, but not try to spoil anything, right?
Yeah.
We can we can talk about like certain plot details and characters, but like nothing that's like any kind of like huge revelation or anything.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think it's fair.
exactly. Like they know what characters are on there. Yeah. So okay. Yeah, Dan, what's your the one persistent
My one
problem you
thing
had?
that I don't like that started in the very first episode of the show is I hate Beast Wars Megatron's voice.
Yeah.
I knew
It is terrible. And also, it's the voice they gave him sounds like the voice they should have given one of the lackeys. Like it sounds like a voice they should have used for like one of the lackeys in the original Beast Wars.
Like
Like,
Scorponok.
Like a Scorponok's voice or something like that. He doesn't sound like he's a leader. And that goes throughout every episode, no matter who he's talking to. He's like, I'll take you down. But he says it in like a second in command voice. And I'm like, you're not threatening. Like,
It's
yeah,
the
you're
delivery.
Yes, the delivery is
It's not just his voice, it's the delivery. He sounds like a lackey.
You, yes.
Yeah, he does say yes a few times. I've noticed that.
Megatron, you're here and you will reward us.
Oh my god!
That like blew my mind when he would say that.
In episode 4, like there's a scene where they're trying to get into like a temple, and G1 Megatron gets injured, and Beast Wars Megatron shows up and is like, "No, Megatron!" And like,
it like was crazy.
It's not even just his voice; it's like the way the character is depicted. Like he straight up wants to just suck G1 Megatron's dick.
He wants to suck his tail.
Oh yeah.
Like I get that like Beast Wars Megatron is supposed to be like he admires G1 Megatron, and like he takes his name and like looks at him as this like legendary figure.
But they made him a simp. They made him like a simp, like a guy that like like it was like crazy.
Okay.
Because I realized that like Optimus Primal, he has a little like he has what he had in the original Beast Wars, but his personality is a little bit different. Obviously, his voice is different, but they kept the same general principle of the guy. With the new Megatron. Oh, sorry, what were we saying?
Oh, if you like. I was thinking about this today too, because I actually like Optimus Primal in Kingdom quite a bit.
I love him. Yeah, I think he's great.
And I was thinking about it today. Optimus Primal in Beast Wars, like he definitely grew into his own character, but he was very much supposed to just be Optimus Prime.
Yeah,
like he was a very, very, very similar character to Optimus Prime, especially in the early days of Beast Wars.
So it's like they took two extremes. Like they kept Optimus Primal, like they made him a little bit different. But they made him different from Optimus Prime because these two are meeting in the show. But with the new Megatron, it was like from the first word he said, I wanted to like throw up.
Okay, so voice aside, he is such a insufferable sycophant that I kind of hate him. Christopher, is that an accurate word to describe the tyrant lizard Megatron?
Yeah.
He's such a sycophant, and he's not like that in Beast Wars.
No.
He loves, like, he follows a doctrine. He has the Bible of the Autobots and the Decepticons. But like, have a fucking spine, man. You can support G1 Megatron and still have a spine.
Yeah. I have a hard time believing that anyone would actually follow this guy.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
I was like, who the fuck is following this guy? But when he's around his lackeys, he's powerful. But when he's around like G1 Megatron, he's like, of course, Lord Megatron, yes. And
when they show him in action,
yeah,
he is a powerhouse. Like it's cool. Obviously, you love T-Rex Megatron when he fights. It's awesome when he like just stomps and like rages on people. It's cool. And then he opens his mouth. Yeah. So that's my only complaint. That's literally throughout even the whole entire series, because I honestly love the show. I think it's amazing. And this is probably the first time something has come up on the show, these 3 seasons, where I'm like, no, it's just not working.
And you know what? That's my biggest and probably that's my only problem. The other stuff is like nitpicky stuff that I'll get into. if or when we like review the episodes.
Mhm.
It's not worth like talking about now. I find that the differentiating timeline was interesting because
Mhm.
it changes everything. But I'm like, who's following this Megatron, this T-Rex? I
Yeah, yeah.
I think we're in agreement on that one.
Yeah.
And you know what? Man, I know there might be some people listening that will like break their whatever device they're like listening to this over their knee and be like, huh, they know nothing. I'm fine with everyone's voices. Beast
Uh,
Wars Megatron's tilts me the most.
there's one other voice that I don't like. The rest of them I think are perfectly fine. There's one other voice that I don't like, and that's Tigatron.
Oh yeah,
That was my follow-up. That was my follow-up. I was like,
I didn't mind him.
I
but it
don't like
was weird.
Tigatron, but maybe that's just me. But that
No,
Dan?
I agree with both of you guys because when he said the first or second thing he said, it was very weird. The voice that came out of Tigatron, because I'm like, we know Tigatron, we know like the kind of personality he has, the kind of voice he has. So I feel like it went from like being like a real deep baritone voice to like being like a squeaky teenager or something like that. Like it was kind of like a really weird contrast.
Yeah, I was like, why does he kind of sound like a mix between Terrorsaur and Dinobot?
Yeah, he sounds like a kid. It was something something was weird about it.
there's a part, doesn't give anything away. There's a part where everyone's being cautious and they're like, no, we don't attack yet. And he pulls a Cheetor move and he's like, no, I say we go in now. And I'm like, is Tigertron the new Cheetor? What? That's the opposite of you, man. You're supposed to be super zen and like patient and smart.
Yeah.
And I understand there were circumstances where he wanted to go in and like get things done because they were personal, but he felt like white Cheetor.
Yeah, I didn't.
And I
I
was
didn't
just
hate
like,
it. It was
you're not the
definitely a shock,
in
though.
the toys, he is white Cheetor, but
Quite literally,
Technically, yeah. Physically, yes.
yeah.
So
I had
okay.
both of them when I was 11. Tigatron is literally just a repainted Cheetor figure.
That's so good.
Primal's voice, it was fine. At
It
first,
grew
I
on
was
me.
like,
It grew on me.
It wasn't
Yeah,
Gary
bro.
Chalk, so obviously, like, you're not going to get Gary Chalk. And this person has a different like tone in his voice. He seems a little more aggressive. Like he's like, we've been on this planet. Like this is your fault. Like fuck you. You like you're the reason we're in this scenario. Like I kind of like that.
I kind of liked that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking about this to a coworker of mine today because I have a couple of coworkers who are big Transformers fans, and one of them is a big Beast Wars fan specifically. And the show like started before he was even born, so I find that really interesting.
Oh wow.
Oh, the younger, yeah.
Yeah. I think he's like 23, so I'm like that's rad that you're like super into Beast Wars.
Yeah.
But I was talking to him about this today, and in Beast Wars, like G1 Optimus Prime is treated like this big, like heroic figure that is like this big source of reverence for all of the Maximals, this like really important historical figure. I like the fact that in Kingdom, like when Optimus Primal like sees him, he's like, no, you're the asshole who completely fucked Cybertron.
Yeah, you're the reason I'm a half monkey. Like you're the reason,
That was so. At first, I was confused, and I was going to criticize that because I was like, "Hold on! When the Decepticons meet the Predacons, they peacefully engage.
Yeah,
But when the Maximals meet the Autobots,
they just
oh
attack.
no!"
Yeah.
But then, as the plot came more clear, I was like, "Oh, yeah, they'd fucking hate him."
Yeah, and not to get too deep, like you guys said, but like the way they incorporated the Beast Wars and kind of made a new timeline.
Yeah.
And they didn't rewrite they didn't cancel out anything you watched 25 years ago. They just kind of incorporated it differently. I think they did a really good job. I think it makes sense in the overarching series.
Well, much like Siege and Earthrise are like kind of a reboot, like retooling of the G1 timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a reimagining of that timeline. So
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it to be like a complete like beat for beat retelling of Beast Wars. And
Mhm.
so far, like I said, I'm 4 episodes in. So far, I'm really enjoying like how they've incorporated the Beast Wars characters into this story.
I didn't have time to nitpick about things too much. For the first time in years, I was actually leaning forward, and it's so weird seeing like Beast Wars characters in modern
Yeah.
television. And I'm like
It's
leaning
amazing.
forward, like, what? Oh wow, that person's helping. Oh, cool. Like it's it could almost do no wrong, right? And yeah, I can go and like nitpick individual things or like whatever, but I was like, this is this good? And then when I finished, I was like, it is.
It is.
It
They did
is.
good. Yeah.
There was a moment in episode 3, it involves Dinobot, where that actually made me like start clapping.
I feel like I know exactly what moment you're talking about because I kind of had, I think I live by myself and I like verbally was like, fuck yeah. Like, I think I was like, yup, nice.
Yeah. Dinobot utters a classic Dinobot line and fucking eye lasers.
Yep.
And that,
Exactly.
like, I was like,
The only eye lasers of the series, I think.
Yeah, probably.
I think that's the only time anyone uses eye lasers in all of War for Cybertron.
You waited 25 years to get more eye lasers. Finally got it.
We did it, folks.
we did it.
25
All right.
years and
Yeah.
Dinobot used fucking eye lasers.
There's
can
also a
retire.
part. There's also a part in episode 1 where it's like the first fight, and I think you guys know what I'm talking about. It's in like the first few minutes, but there was something happened in that fight towards the end of it where like I kind of had the same moment where I was like, "Yo, that's like it was like a movie moment, like kind of like the way it happened. It was kind of cool." I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys.
Well,
You know,
speaking of
yeah.
movie moments, like I said this to my partner months ago when I first discovered Siege. I think I said this to Cal too. Like, this series is legitimately better than like leaps and bounds better than any of the actual Transformers movies.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yeah.
let's just do this as Transformers movies. Like,
Can this just be Transformers?
yeah.
Yeah. It's so. I think I came across it. What was it? When did the first season come out? Last summer.
Yeah, last July.
So like I said, like I'm not like a humongous Transformers person, but I saw it and it was like a new anime series. I'm like, oh, it's cool CG. So I put it on, and from episode 1, it was like dark. They took itself dead serious, and I'm like, I agreed with you. I'm like, this is the way it needs to be.
Yeah.
You need to treat these talking robots that turn into cars as deadly serious, like as Hamlet or like Shake or any some of the dead serious thing. Because if you don't, if you try to goof it up, then the whole thing gets ruined. But everyone's dead serious about like the world ending, the Allspark, like all this shit. I'm like, thank you. Like this works. Like it works so well.
My partner started watching it. So Christopher told me about War for Cybertron. And again, when I started this, I'm like, yeah, I'll do Beast Wars. I'm not even a Transformers person, but I'll do Beast Wars. And after a few months, he told me about War for Cybertron, and I watched it and I was like, Christopher, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
And my partner, absolutely nothing about Transformers at all, had watched the movie with me, the 1986 Transformers movie.
Yeah.
And she was like, why is this so much better than any other Transformers stuff I've heard of? But she started watching War for Cybertron too, and she's like, I really want to know what happens. What the hell? Like, I really like Alita and who's the sniper?
Chromia.
Chromia. Yeah.
Okay. I forgot her name actually.
And
for a
I really
while, like
like
toys of her
Jetfire,
were everywhere, so that's the only reason why I know her name.
Okay.
Every time I was going to Walmart, like looking for new Transformers, when I started buying them again last winter, like there were always Chromias there.
Mm-hmm.
and she's got a cool design, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, man, I really like Jetfire, and I'm like, right? And even she likes it. So the fact it can appeal to people that aren't even into Transformers that much and be like, "Oh wow, this is dramatic," and like I want to know what happens.
Well,
Yeah,
and
it's a-
indeed,
But
I think those people are probably the people who are going to get the most out of this show, especially if you go to any Transformers forum. The hardcore
as
fans.
Christopher was saying, so all three of us here are like kind of like praising it, right? All you hear is about how shit this is online.
really?
From hardcore
Man,
Transformers fans, yeah.
That's
This show is
crazy.
very critically acclaimed. Like you go to Rotten Tomatoes, like it's all three of them are like in the high like 90s, like 90%. So
Oh, okay.
it's a very critically acclaimed show. But you go to like any Transformers website or forum, and people just like shit talk it about how like they complain that it's not Peter Cullen doing the voice of Optimus Prime. They're like, this is the worst animation I've ever seen in anything. And I'm like,
I
really?
did see that. I saw someone say something like when the first or second season came out, and they were like, "This animation's bad." I'm like, "Are you drunk?" Like,
I'm like,
this is-
really? Have you seen season 1 of Beast Wars?
Yeah.
Um, um,
Talk about
Who-
Beast Wars shit and talk shit about Beast Wars. What
Yeah.
can I say?
what are people watching where they say it looks bad? It is like such an like
If anything, if you even don't like the voice acting, the look of the show is like a 10 out of 10. You know, even if you don't like the characterizations or anything else, like you gotta praise that it actually looks amazing. Give
and
credit where
yes,
credit's
in
due.
the
Yeah.
cinematography and it's still called cinematography in animation.
Yeah.
It's man, it looks it looks so good. So I'm like, what are people comparing this to where they say it looks bad? Do you want it to look like G1 Transformers, where there's just 10 seconds close-up shots of like Transformers with their mouth like opening
Yeah.
up with just a different colored background, like old animation like used to be, and they just reuse the same shots all season with a change in background. So what
I
are they
think
comparing this to, man?
I think
This is like
people are
the height of
still
animation. Literally,
people are still
actually.
like messed up from the movies. Like because I know I am. I think that probably took me from like being a casual to like liking them when the movies came out and then realizing no, these movies aren't good. So I got tricked. So I remember I saw the movies in theaters like 1, 2, and 3. And looking back, I really can't remember much about them.
The old
And then
Michael Bay grift.
yeah. And then I saw 4. I saw 4 on TV. 4 is the first one with Mark Wahlberg, right?
Yeah. I saw
Yeah,
that
so-
movie in theaters and fucking fell asleep.
Actually, weirdly, I liked the first Mark Wahlberg one. I saw it on TV and I'm like, oh shit, like the Dinobots are in it. Like I actually enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed watching him interact with Transformers. I think so. I paid, so it got me liking the movies again. So then I paid for the next one, the last night, and I went to see the last night in theaters. And I'm like, no wait, I got tricked. This movie is garbage. And the last night like was atrocious. And I think that
China
turned me
really
off.
loved it. If you
Yes,
want to
they
see
did.
how atrocious it was, go and look how much they money they squeezed out of China. Basically, after the third one, they started making those movies for China.
Or
There's
international.
nothing
Yeah.
wrong with
Yeah.
that, but
Marvel
China
was
loves
doing
robot
that.
movies.
Marvel was
Yeah.
doing that for a while in the early 2010s as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I cannot look at their faces. There's too many moving parts, and they're just offensive for me to look at.
In the movies,
Like,
right?
give me Wheeljack where his face doesn't move and his fucking ears just light up
Light
any
up, yeah.
day over like the 7,000 moving parts on the Michael Bay
Well, now it's
movies.
tough because in the last night, I think they introduced Unicron. Am I wrong? Am I remember that wrong?
Yeah. It was like
Never watched them.
I think like they transported Cybertron to like Earth's orbit, but then Cybertron turned out to have like Unicron inside it or
Yeah,
something.
or something. Or like I think at the end of the last night, Earth is becoming Unicron. Like there's horns coming out of Earth, and I'm like, oh, cool. And it was like literally, I'm not even kidding. I remember seeing it with my brother. I'm like, the only cool thing about this movie was the last 5 minutes because I'm like, Unicron is cool.
Anyways, so
I-
Christopher,
Yeah.
what the fuck? You're probably right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. That movie is bad.
I've been waiting. How old is Earth? Like 12 point something billion.
I've been
years?
asleep this
I've
entire
been
time.
waiting 12 billion years to get you at this
What
moment,
just happened?
Cybertron.
He's related to King Arthur in that movie. Like King Arthur gave Optimus
Why the
Prime
fuck
his
not?
sword.
King Arthur was a robot. Sure.
Yeah,
And
it was something like
there were
that.
Nazis for some reason, and Winston
That was-
Churchill had something to do with it.
That was
I
the
don't
best
know.
part in one of those because they show Bumblebee in like Nazi Germany. That was a cool part. That was like
Are there not?
What?
Are there Nazi bots?
No, they show like if somebody's telling a story about how Bumblebee's been around, and they show Bumblebee in like a flashback pulling up to like a Nazi mansion, and then he turns into a transformer and starts gunning down Nazis, and I'm like, I'll see this movie. Give
You want
me
to know
this
some?
fucking-
You want to know something funny about that? Is the house that they used and that they put not like Nazi banners on was Winston Churchill himself's house. Like it was his mansion, like his actual house.
Wow, that's kind of fucked up.
It is kind of fucked up, and the production actually took a lot of flack for hanging Nazi paraphernalia on the literal house of Winston Churchill. And Michael Bay,
Classic Michael Bay.
Bay's official response to the media was that he feels that if Winston Churchill had read the script for Transformers The Last Night and understood the context of the story, he would be perfectly okay with it.
I kind of like his answer, to be honest. It's kind of a ballsy answer.
Well, it's Michael Bay.
Yeah,
if
I
he was
respect his ballsy
alive,
answer.
he'd take a puff of his cigar and he would go outside and fucking fight the people trying to hang the flags himself, and there'd be riots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he was alive and read the script. If there's
That's
anything worth rioting over, it would have been
response. So good.
Wow.
Like, fuck off, Michael Bay.
What so do you guys have other complaints about the show at all?
Complaints?
Complaints?
No, not really.
No.
I think the show like really brings together like the MacGuffin of the original Transformers movie, the MacGuffin of Beast Wars, and the MacGuffin of the Michael Bay movies, that being the Matrix of leadership, the Golden Discs, and the Allspark. It does a really good job of tying those all together.
Yeah.
It really ties the timeline together.
Yeah. It does, and that was one of the things I was most impressed about.
I was shocked that it got less complicated instead of more.
I agree with you, and actually, I do agree that you're right. Three main things that these characters are going after, especially in this season, and it was very easy to follow. Yeah. Like the motives were very just black and white anyway. So it was very easy to follow. Like, oh, this person's evil. That's why they're going after this. Oh, this person's good. That's why they need this.
Dinobot in the show is actually voiced by a rapper named Chris Kalika, who I'd never heard of. But I Googled him, and guy has like 400,000 followers on Twitter. He's released like several albums. He's been around for like 20 years.
He did a good job.
And so that's kind of a get for the show. So I would like to know what the story was, because the rest of the cast is like nobodies in this trilogy. Mm-hmm. So, and that's no disrespect to any of them, but they're all non-union voice actors.
This is disrespect to the guy that voices Megatron. Full disrespect, because I don't like him.
Yeah, except that guy. So I want to know the story of how this rapper got the voice role of Dinobot, because what I like to think is that he found out that there was going to be a War for Cybertron Kingdom cartoon and called up his agent and was like, yo, get me an audition as Dinobot.
I mean, if you have the leverage,
if you don't get me an audition for Dinobot, we're through.
I like to think that's what happens.
You don't understand how much Dinobot meant to me.
That would be awesome if he was like a super fan and they were like, he was one of the biggest fans of Beast Wars ever. And then they announced
that's our headcanon.
Yeah. because it's weird, right? Because like the rest of the cast are all like kind of small time voice actors, but then meanwhile we have this rapper like who's never done any voice acting. I looked him up. He's
I gotta look him
never
up.
done
Yeah.
never done any voice acting before. Suddenly like gets the role of Dinobot. Like he had to have reached out to someone and been like, "Hey, I want to be Dinobot."
Listen,
His
I thought he was. I
voice-
thought he was good, and it's also you have a lot to like. You have big shoes to fill because the original Dinobot was an iconic voice. He was an iconic role. He's a fan favorite. He's probably one of the most favorite characters of the original Beast Wars.
I'd
I
say
feel-
Transformers in general at this point.
Yeah,
Everybody
no, I
loves
agree. And
Dinobot.
he had like, you
it's
know,
Optimus Prime,
Dinobot.
Starscream.
Dinobot, and like Soundwave and Megatron probably.
Yeah.
Starscream's pretty up there too.
So
Yeah.
the fact that this guy did it, I think he did Admiral. Oh, I can't say the word. He did a good job.
He did an Adam West role.
Yeah,
Yes.
I couldn't get the word out of my mouth, but I think
You
he
know
did
what?
a good job as his
He
voice
very
acting.
quickly grew on me. At first,
Yeah.
I was like, "Are you sure?" And then his like second lines, I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah, that's how
I'm
I
on
felt
board.
about Optimus Primal too. I was like, oh,
Same.
that's weird. But then
Do you
I got
remember
used
when
to
everyone was complaining on like Twitter? And I was like, give it another listen. It's actually fine.
it. I know, even I was one of those people. I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, no, I think it's okay.
I can't get
I'm
used to
not-
Tigatron or Beast Wars
Or Ma-
Megatron though.
Yeah.
I usually don't care about like I don't need them to sound like the old Beast Wars,
Mhm.
but I can't jive with Megatron and Tigatron.
Yeah.
I can't jive with it, man.
They should just make their own show. Just get them off this show, and this show would be like an absolute perfect show. I just need you to take those two out.
Let's make a petition. It's happening right now.
Another change.org petition from
He's
from
he's
Too Much
making it right now.
Energon.
He's writing it up. We'll find the voice actors that did those roles and get them canceled.
How dare you?
Out there.
No, what they need to do, we need to start a petition for them to track down whoever the fuck voiced Megatron in the Beast Wars video game and get him into the show. Because I'm sure he's not doing anything.
From what I heard, because I hear that snippet all the time on your show, from what I heard, that's a better job than this Megatron.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I think I had that for computer. I don't think I had it for PlayStation. I wish I had more memories of it. I just remember owning it when Beast Wars was in its prime.
It wasn't.
It's
wasn't good.
atrocious.
Yeah, I'm sure it
it's
wasn't
bad.
Yeah.
I have a Sony like PlayStation Classic Mini because I've got one on clearance for like $40,
Mhm.
and I have it hacked to have like a bunch of like 100 other like PlayStation PS1 ROMs, and that's one of them. So I played it, and I'm like, holy shit, this game is fucking terrible, but the voice acting is amazing.
Yeah, primo.
It
So I
is
have the little
unintentionally
mini-
amazing.
I have the Sony, the PS1 Mini too, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I should download and ROM the and play that. And then Christopher's just like, it's just bad, and I'm like, nah, I'm good.
So it's not even like
if
fun
a friend
bad?
tells me something's bad, I'm good. I don't
Okay.
care.
Yeah, you can experience the dipshit voice acting from that game just by listening to this podcast because I frequently incorporate audio from it.
Well, speaking of video games, because the last, I don't know if there's been games since, but the last games for Transformers were called War for Cybertron, and those were phenomenal. There was 2 of them. They were on the PS3 and Xbox.
Actually, there was
Were they
3
the
of them.
same? It was the same team that made what are those other mech games? Shoot.
I think the company was called Dark Moon or High Moon or something.
That sounds right.
Anyways, my friend was a big like mech video game like player,
Mhm.
and when he's like, oh, like these guys are making like a Transformers game, and he was all over those when they had come out.
Oh,
He
you're
loved
thinking,
it.
I just realized. So there's two that are War for Cybertron, and then there's one called Transformers Devastation. And that's the one that looks like G1 Transformers. That's more cartoony.
Right.
No, that's not the one because I have a torrent pack because they're not available digitally anymore. I have a
Oh,
torrent
yeah, that's
pack
right. Yeah.
that I downloaded that has 3 of them in it. I'm gonna fuck it. I will look it up.
Yeah, I remember the ones on PS3 that I played were the same thing like the show where they took it super serious, and it was like just an awesome like Gears of War-esque like Transformers game where you could like
Is it
change anything.
Devastation?
Devastation was the most recent one I played. That was like 2015 or 14.
Was that Deece?
Transformers War for Cybertron games, the old trusty tfwiki.net.
Yeah.
The wiki.
I think we might have lost our chat bot, but whatever. I'll use audio from the video version. Fuck it.
Okay.
I think there's War for Cybertron and Fall Cybertron, I think.
Fall of.
And then I think the company went under. And I think something happened, and that's why they're not available digitally anymore. Which sucks. I wish they could easily just remaster.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very actiony game,
Yeah.
right?
And it was really cool, and it was like it all took place on Cybertron. So like the graphics of like the whole Metal City was like amazing.
I used to
Okay.
watch Inside Gaming play it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, so there was Transformers War for Cybertron in 2010, and then in 2012 there was Transformers Fall of Cybertron, and then in 2014 there was Transformers Rise of the Dark Spark, which combined the storyline from those games with the storyline from the movies. Yeah.
Huh.
Okay. Oh,
It is what is known as the Aligned Continuity family.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Which also included 3 novels called Transformers Exodus, Transformers Exiles, Transformers Retribution.
Now they're just getting greedy. Nobody's gonna buy the novels.
Now you're expecting us to read. Get out of here.
No thanks. I'm good.
How dare you?
I can't imagine myself actually reading a fucking Transformers book.
I think
I made the mistake once upon a year to be like, I like Resident Evil. I'm going to read a novel. Oh.
You know what I figured out a long time ago about Resident Evil? Because Resident Evil is like in my top 5 like favorite game franchises of all time. I like playing Resident Evil. I don't like anything else about Resident Evil.
I don't like the movies.
I don't like the movies. Like the live action movies are fucking atrocious. The animated movies that are supposedly like in continuity are boring as all shit.
Yeah,
that new Netflix show that just came on was
I heard that's terrible.
There's a Netflix show?
Yeah, it's called.
It's like a CG series. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. I don't know. I watched the first episode and was like, eh.
It's funny. I love the Uncharted games, and somebody got me a novel based on Uncharted for Christmas one year, and I tried reading it, and I just wasn't into it. I'm like, I kind of hate this book. It was like so weird. I'm like, why do I love everything about the games? And like, they're making an Uncharted movie with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. And I'm like, I don't want this to happen. I don't want the movie. I don't want a book. I don't want anything else. Just give me the game. Stop with it. Stop.
Shit, that's the second time Marky Mark himself has come up on this podcast.
Mark Wahlberg is ruining my life. Get out of my life, Marky Mark.
So there's a like a for funsies like fan trailer of of what a live action Uncharted game might look like. But Nathan Fillion,
I've seen that. It's awesome.
But isn't that fucking good?
Yeah.
And I'm like, like when he jumps out the window and he's like, "Oh, I'm getting like too old for this."
And it's like a one track shot too, because he gets up and cocks his gun, and it just kind of follows him as he's walking.
And it's kind of like when the cinematics of those games like pull out and like seamlessly become the gameplay.
Yeah.
The camera does that too, and it's like over the shoulder, like following Nathan Fillion. Christopher, if you haven't seen that, it's like the only good live action Uncharted thing that I can.
And it's only like 10, 15 minutes, something like that.
It's short. Yeah,
It's really short. Yeah.
It's good.
I do kind of like that Sony is kind of decided to go the Marvel route now with their properties. Like they're like, oh, we don't really want like other film studios to like fuck up our game properties
So
by
we're just gonna
adapting
do
them
it
to movies.
ourselves.
So we're just going to do it ourselves.
So we're just gonna fuck it up ourselves.
Yeah.
People
sure,
used
he's
to
still
be
out,
like,
but-
man, fuck Sony holding on to their like properties and get all like angry. And in the background, I've always like silently been like, no, keep them. You can do it. Because I've liked their movies from like the 2000s, right?
Well, their most recent one, I saw. I didn't really love it or like it that much, but Venom. Sony put that out, and they made
That was fun.
it made so much money though. Like they made that money. They didn't give it to Marvel, and Marvel didn't take any of that money. Like Sony had a huge hit with Venom.
I looked at the box office and I was shockingly surprised.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great movie, but it was fun enough.
Oh, I won't see it, but China liked it, so who am I to judge?
That's true. Yeah. It wasn't made for you. It was made for China.
It wasn't made for me.
Yeah.
I haven't even
When
been
that
to
when
China.
the trailers came out, I was like, "Oh, Christopher's going to see this in theaters."
I did.
I
did
like the
Jim-
Venom. I like the Venom parts. I like every time he's on and he's fighting and he's throwing guys around. I thought that's cool and like his look, but everything in between that I didn't like. So that's basically the whole movie. It's like
80% of it was bad, but the parts where he was fighting things as Venom was good.
Yeah, basically. And since it made money, they just show more parts of him fighting in the sequel, and I'll be fine with it.
Just have
Overall,
Venom
it gets
fighting
5 out of 5 alien symbiotes from me.
Yeah.
Yes.
5 out of 5 symbiotes.
Yeah.
If they can make the movie like what was that video game series where the dude transforms and he plays like Alex Mercer and he can like disguise himself and turn his like body into blades and run up walls.
Oh, Prototype.
Prototype.
Yeah.
If you can make a movie the way that game feels, that would feel like a Venom movie.
I guess, yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
Interestingly
I never
enough,
played Prototype, but
Prototype was the follow-up project from a studio. I can't remember what their name was, but the game that they had made before that was The Incredible Hulk: Ultimate Destruction.
oh, that I remember.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, it was a great game. It even used the same engine, and like when you play Prototype, like it feels very similar to Incredible
The
Hulk:
way he runs
Ultimate
up
Destruction.
walls and gains momentum as you run, and yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So bringing it back full circle, back to the Marvel connection.
Yeah.
All right. What?
6 degrees of Marvelation.
Yeah. What's next on the what's our talking points on the Beast Wars?
Well,
sorry, I'll let you go.
oh, I was just gonna bring up. I read the yesterday, day before, can't remember, someday. That Transformers the movie. Speaking of Transformers the movie from 1986, getting re-released to theaters in September. On September 28th.
Pretty awesome, actually.
And they're remastering it into 4K.
Yeah, I've already got that 4K Steelbook Blu-ray pre-order.
A new generation gets to watch Optimus Prime die all over again.
When I
a new generation of 6-year-olds can be crushed. As I
when
was.
Christopher shared that, I was like, "Oh, Christopher is definitely getting the Blu-ray Steelbox set for that."
Yep.
And I was like, "Oh, am I too? I don't know yet."
Well, why doesn't it come in like is the Matrix of Leadership in the movie?
Yep.
Why isn't it come in like a super edition, like Matrix of Leadership special edition case?
And you have to, and it comes on a chain, so you can wear it around your neck like a boss.
You would buy that, right? Would you guys buy that?
Just like this dashing fellow right here.
Oh my god.
Galvatron with his bling.
With his thing on him, yeah. See? I would buy that.
I feel like if that sounds like something that would have come out in like a box set in like 2012.
That nobody bought.
Nobody would buy that.
Or even earlier, like 2009 maybe. Because me and Cal both used to work at Blockbuster Video around that time, and we always saw these like wacko editions of Blu-rays that would come out in these like and video games too that would come like the fucking Halo 3 helmet and shit like that.
Special edition like cases are insane.
And they would sit there in the back, like behind the counters, but like higher up behind us, so that people could see it and maybe they'd buy it. And month after month would go by before it would be 10% off, 20% off. A fucking year would go by. This motherfucker would be 50% off. No one's buying that fucking goofy shit.
Wait,
man.
so you guys worked in Blockbuster, so maybe this came out around that time. Do you remember a Planet of the Apes head? So for one Christmas, my brother got me a Planet of the Apes like collector's edition, like full package, but it's Cornelius's head. So just one of the Planet of the Apes head, and the hair on him is like real hair. And like under his neck, it like goes up to like here, and under his neck is like a little holding case where all the DVDs are. So for a while, I just brought the head everywhere. And I remember one time I tricked my ex and I like put the head under a blanket on our bed. And I kind of like, and I said something like, "Hey, I'm in the bed right now." Like I tried to wait all day for her to come home just to get tricked. But it's like creepy because the eyes like looked real. The hair was actually real.
Just imagining you just like sitting there waiting for like hours on end, being like, "She'll be here any minute."
I can't wait for her to start touching it, thinking it's me. But yeah, it was super creepy. I didn't know when it came out.
Shots out of it, yeah.
Could it be like was it big enough to actually wear as a helmet?
No, it wasn't like something I could put over my head. It was like the size of my head, but it was like the head part was just solid.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the Master Chief helmet was like the size of a child's head, right? Like it was about
put it on.
No, but I guess if you really like Halo, but it was too expensive. That was another thing that sat in the back for like ever. Even Halo fans are like, I like Halo, but like just the helmet, and you can't wear it.
I remember it finally sold because it got marked down to $20. Eventually,
I guess that makes sense.
And this was in 2010, so like keep in mind, Halo 3 came out in 2007. So after 3 years of slowly like knocking the price down, Blockbuster was finally like, "Fuck it, $20," and then some like neckbeard bought it.
Yeah.
Actually, to bring it back to the Transformers movie, there's that book that I have. I was trying to find it while I was talking, but there's a part that just talks about the Transformers movie. But in the book, there's like pullouts, like a replica of like a ticket to the premiere and stuff like that. And the only thing I was able to pull out right now was this poster from the movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've seen that artwork before. I didn't know what it was from.
And there's like another. I'm trying to find the. There's like
I know Rodimus Prime when I see him.
Good old Judd Nelson. Who the fuck remembers him voicing that? But yeah, it was really funny because like once I got this book, like there's so many pop-ups and like things you can pull out, like pamphlets. I'm like, I feel like a child with this thing, like touching all the things inside of it.
I read on the Transformers wiki that a few years ago there was a Power of the Primes cartoon that was on YouTube, and Rodimus Prime was actually like Judd Nelson actually came back to voice Rodimus Prime in that.
That's pretty awesome.
Optimus Primal was also in that show too, voiced by Ron Perlman.
So that's the thing that he voiced him in, because I read that he voiced Optimus Primal somewhere else. Okay.
So he was Optimus Primal in that cartoon, and Judd Nelson came back to voice Rodimus Prime. Fucking crime that they didn't get our boy Gary back.
Gary Prime, Optimus Chalk.
Well, we're trying to bring we're trying to bring Gary Primal back to voice.
I heard about your. I listened to your last episode.
Movie.
Yeah.
If we can get your signature on that, that'll gain some steam.
Yeah, I heard all about that.
It's just like, hey, WTFamicom is side of this. What's wrong
So
with
it's
you?
kind of
Dan?
it's gonna go viral now.
Yeah. Gotta plug there. We gotta right a wrong that was done in 1998 in the Japanese Beast Wars movie. Optimus Primal, not voiced by Gary Chalk. It's a travesty. We gotta fix
What was
that.
the guy's name? Like something Leo. Like I would listen to your last one about that movie.
Lio
Lyle
Convoy. Yeah.
Convoy, man.
Lio Convoy, that's right.
And
Because then
Lyle
Optimus Primal
and
showed up,
Convoy Jr. or Lyle Jr.
and there's like a kid. It's all about like not listening to the kid because the kid.
I
wants
was
to
too
go-
generous with that. I should have gave that fucking not enough. That was bad.
I gave it a too much energon. Just
Amazing.
because I thought it was hilariously stupid.
Is that available to watch anywhere?
Yeah, it's on
Yeah.
YouTube.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll
In
check
its
that out. then.
entirety.
Oh,
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, there's like a fan sub of it on YouTube. That's how we watched it.
It
I
is
always
so
find it funny.
Japanese.
I always find it funny when you guys are talking and do like one of you guys talking about a part and you say, you know what, I'm just gonna make this the episode cover art. And so I'm looking at the cover art and I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. Like you guys do that every episode. I always think that's funny. I'm like, now I know the origin.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I do that on the our reboot podcast, Alphanumeric.
Do you see
as
my
well.
Discord little symbol?
I did see it, yeah. Before
Like if you right click and look at my profile, that's a picture of Lio Convoy, like putting on sunglasses.
Did he do that in the show or in the movie?
Not in this one.
not in that one, but in some fucking Beast
Somewhere
Wars
he did
thing.
it.
In
Some,
somewhere he puts on Deal With It shades.
That's fucking awesome.
So-
I love it.
Oh, that movie was a trip. These past few weeks of Too Much Energon have been especially fun because we've just been kind of winging it.
Well, you did the
Yeah.
movie, you did the comics, which from it sounded like the comics weren't that great until like the last issue.
Yeah, I just read issue 6 today because we plan on listeners. We're launching a Patreon exclusive spin-off to Too Much Energon called Too Much Galavar, where we once a month.
Who or what is Galavar?
You'll find out.
You'll find
If
out.
you listen to our comics episode, you will find out.
That's a Patreon exclusive at the $10 and up tier. Yeah, once a month we're gonna do a like short little like 15 to 25 minute episode of Too Much Energon dedicated to the comic.
Come and tell us how stupid we are, along with the writer of the.
Yeah, we caught the ire of the. To be fair, I tweeted it out and at tagged him and IDW Comics, but he actually responded and didn't seem
That's
too
pretty
happy.
great. What did he write? What did he say back in particular? I forgot.
It was very short, but he said, and I understand this. Christopher and I always know there are producers in the background that make the writers do certain things because first and foremost, you have to write these to sell toys.
Yeah.
Make no mistake, right?
That's
So
why I make my podcast. My
understand
podcast
that.
is to sell toys.
I understand. That's why we do the podcast.
Yeah.
We're giving
sell other
$5 a
people's
month to
toys.
sell the toys.
Yeah.
We're gonna ask for more once our contract is.
That's why we give
And-
literally every episode of everything ever Too Much Energon or an alphanumeric rating because we're being paid off. You know?
Yeah. It makes sense
we're
now.
paid actors.
Yeah.
And he was he was fine. He was like, I had to make it so that it goes in a certain direction. And I understand he's not allowed to talk about it either. It's hush hush, there's non-disclosure agreements. And he is like, I'm sorry that you were perplexed by it. And you can take it as him being salty. Like, oh, I'm sorry that you were so perplexed.
You in particular were perplexed. Your
Me
feeble mind.
because I like to say
Yeah.
that, right? And usually when I'm like, and then some perplexing shit happens, it's not that I'm perplexed. That's my nice way of saying it's fucking stupid.
Yeah. Your word is perplexing. Mine is baffling. If I like basically the same thing. If I'm like something fucking baffling happens.
I guess
But
at some point I'll buy like the paperback of this.
And we deadpan
Coming out in December.
humor.
Oh, okay.
Very short, right? He's like, I had a certain direction to go while writing the first 5, 6. I'm sorry you were perplexed by it. Now, we responded completely deadpan, and we were like, thank you for the apology. And Christopher was like, that's all we wanted.
Yeah, I too accept your apology.
That would have been better if you just wrote, I accept your apology. That would have been like, he would have fucking killed you.
And that's how we did it. But
see, that's assuming that he actually listened to the follow-up episode, which he undoubtedly did not.
Did not, no. But like in reality, he's probably only minorly salty, whereas he's not actually apologizing. He's probably somewhere in the middle that's like, oh well, sorry if it was like perplexing towards you guys. Right?
Yeah.
Just whatever. I don't care enough. I'm gonna spend like 10 seconds like responding to you guys or whatever, right? And also, man, being a writer's hard. Like I actually like his writing. Like I went looked up his stuff, and I actually do like the comics.
Yeah,
it's like fine.
It's fine,
and it's
like
hard
it doesn't
launching that. It's hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I even said like the writing in the book is serviceable. Like it doesn't like blow my skirt up or anything, but it's not like it's not the worst thing ever. Yeah. That actually, speaking of the comic, that actually, to circle back to War for Cybertron Kingdom, Dinobot's relationship with Airazor in Kingdom,
that was interesting.
Very reminiscent of Dinobot and Nyx in the comic.
Do you think they did that on purpose?
I don't know.
Probably not.
Okay.
But it's just like the relationship's very similar, and the like specific set of circumstances involving the two of them very similar.
I actually appreciated their convos. I liked when they had those moments.
Yeah.
Airazor is fucking great.
Flying around like Iron Man.
Yeah.
How she's just so friends with everyone. Man, I already liked Bird Mom probably more than a lot of other people that watched Beast Wars. But when I was watching Kingdom, I was like, wow, like Airazor's fucking great on this.
They're giving her more screen time than I thought they would give her too. Because I knew she was on the show, but I'm like, well, there's so many characters, you can only give them like so little time.
And you know what, man? Give the female Transformers more airtime because
there's not that many.
But can you not always? Can you get away from just making them damsels, please? Yeah.
I like how
Black Arachnia changes that mold because she's never really a damsel.
Yeah,
on the show in Beast Wars, right?
Well, and especially in this show.
Yeah,
and so I was glad that it wasn't just a damsel situation. I won't talk about the storyline, but I was glad that it was more than meets the eye.
Well done.
I like the fact that Airazor like refers to like Optimus as truck guy, and like
she did call him like she called him like red guy. She was like asking, she's like, is anyone there? She said someone's name, and then she said red guy.
Oh, red guy, right?
Yeah,
and then
like, who's red guy? I'm like, oh yeah.
She referred to Soundwave as like
cassette
guy, and like the tapes.
When she said that, I'm like, how do you know? I was like, how do you know what tapes are? Like when she said that, I'm like, wait.
Because like 20 new Transformers showed up, bruh. It's their names are different, right? Like, okay, the cheetah guy's name is Cheetor. Right, the rhino guy's name is Rhinox. Got it, right?
Yeah.
But then all these guys show up, and it's just like, the one that changes into a gun, Megatron, cool Megatron, yeah, cool Megatron,
the guy that has dated technology in his chest, Cassette Man.
What's
Uh,
that, man?
use a pencil to rewind him, man. I don't know what his name is.
And that
He's got like
reminded me
a
of
crank,
what,
like on it, like a
Yeah.
pencil sharpener, like crank on the back.
Yeah.
that reminded me of how Christopher and I started jokingly referring to the characters on Beast Wars on Too Much Energon, like
Yeah.
Tarantula Man and Gorilla, Man.
Rhino
Yeah.
It makes
Bot.
sense. Might as well. They're better names.
Fucking Rhino Bot.
Just imagine Beast Wars. Just like someone just called Optimus Gorilla Man, and he responded by calling them Raptor Man. You know,
Gorillax.
Gorillax. Just combine them all.
Cheetar.
Cheetara. Oh wait, that's a real thing.
Rat Primal. That doesn't even make sense.
Rat Trap is on point.
Yeah, he's actually surprisingly, when he first started talking, I wasn't really feeling it, and then as the episodes went by, he had that like accent. He just had like a little deeper voice, but he had that thing going on where he like kind of talked in somewhat slang or like more loosely, and I'm like, oh, I'm okay with him now.
Yeah,
he
he's
was
from
an
Jersey.
for me all the way through. He was
Okay,
he was really quiet for some reason.
he was
Like I was like, can you guys up the
volume.
the mixing for his
Yeah,
his
that's
voice?
what I was thinking. Yeah,
I've seen people online complain about the voice mixing on the show, and I don't know, maybe it's like the way like my sound, like my system is set up, but like I don't have any problems.
When I re-listen to it, I'm gonna put headphones on or something.
just to kind of
And
Maybe this is only a problem for peasants with low quality electronics.
fair enough.
No, I don't know. I probably just don't even notice. Like,
Well, now when you watch the next two, it's gonna be in your head now.
yeah.
You're like, oh my god, why are they so low? Why are they whispering?
God damn it. When we
Yeah.
get there in the show event, in the podcast, eventually, like way down the line, every episode will get a not enough energon, and it will be your fault.
Yeah.
Just for pointing that out to me.
Don't blame us.
Yeah, blame the mixer.
What was G1 Megatron's like G1 Megatron's name isn't just Megatron, is it?
I thought it was.
Megatron, Tiberius,
Kirk.
Cyber,
Tiberion. That right.
Megatron,
Optimus Prime's name isn't.
Tiberion,
Yeah.
Tiberion,
Let's say Hyperion.
Cybertronia.
So all I wanted watching it was for Hyperion and Orion to hug. But shit gets bananas and kind of crazy. in a good way. Man, it gets crazy. Go watch it, listeners.
So there's a part that I wanted someone to not say something. So there's a part where they show a flashback of Dinobot, Black Arachnia, and Megatron at some point. But they're all like in the shadow, like they're just showing something that happened in their timeline.
Right.
And they're showing them in the shadow, and they're showing them as robots, and something's happening. And I'm like, oh, I'm finally going to get my wish where they don't like call them their current robot names, because that would make no sense. And Megatron says something to Dinobot, and he says, don't you agree, Dinobot? I'm like, you fucked it up. Why'd you have to call him Dinobot? He's not a dinosaur yet.
Don't you agree, Dinobot? Yes!
Yeah. And he did it in that voice, too. And I'm still angry.
Dinobot. Yes.
And then right afterwards, he said something about Black Arachnia. I'm like, she's not a spider yet. What are you doing? The show is so good.
Christopher, we have said 10 times over that it's hilarious to think, and indeed it is true, that their names were actually, and we've confirmed this, that their names are actually their actual names already. So wasn't it a good thing that Rat Trap
turned into a rat and not a gorilla?
His choice was a rat, that Cheetor was a cheetah.
Yeah.
Megatron could have been anything badass.
That's true. He's not Dinosaur Tron.
Wouldn't it have been awkward if Scorponok was a tarantula?
And yet, somewhat ironically, in the 2021 Beast Wars comic, Megatron is the only one who has a different name on Cybertron.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, Galavar.
we know, he takes on the namesake of Megatron, so he had
Yeah.
to have had a name before. Mysterious what it could be.
Hmm.
Turns
think
out
you
it's
just revealed it.
Galavar.
It's Galavar.
Great. Now that people are paying for the Patreon episodes know the twist.
Ah,
Yes.
we've said that on the show.
Yeah.
Spoiling something that is literally on the first page of the first issue.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, Dan, before you check out the issues of Beast Wars, just nicely open it, look at whatever art style is in the middle of it. If it doesn't make you go, oh, cool, don't get it.
Why? Don't you like? You didn't like it, right? The art style.
No, I liked the art style.
I hate it.
That's right. I knew one of you hated it.
Christopher Siege and our guest, Candace Santora from the Stasis Lock podcast, and very great artist, they disliked it to varying degrees.
Oh wow.
I think she was trying to be more diplomatic about it.
Yeah.
There's a shot in issue 6 of the Beast Wars comic, the one that just came out like literally yesterday, where Megatron is in beast mode and like he has this like fucking like derpy like underbite where his like jaw is just sticking out so far.
Sounds terrible.
It's I only have a digital version of it. If I had if I had like an actual physical copy of that issue, I would show it to you, but it's hilarious looking.
Wait, there's a is it better than this? Or is it worse than that?
Yeah.
It is significantly worse than that.
Really? Yeah, that's on the back of the it's all the Megatrons.
There's only one good Megatron on that picture you just showed, and it's G1 Megatron.
You don't like the Hugo Weaving Megatron?
Why don't people like the Netflix series, The War for Cybertron? They look like G1.
Yes.
What do
It
people
boggles
want?
me.
What do
They
people
look-
want?
They are so like they are the most toy accurate Transformers ever, because like Rooster Teeth, who animates the show, literally like did like digital scans of the figures. Like right down to the fact that like certain characters will even have like peg holes and shit like that.
And the little screw holes, like they look like little machines.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you just
in
said
certain
what
slower animations, they actually transform like the toys are supposed to.
Yeah.
Christopher's the one that pointed that out to me.
Yeah.
You were just asking what do these people want?
Of the animations, but in some of them.
These people want something to complain about. I mean, Transformers is like a hot topic now to complain about something. So
as we get older, I'm trying my best not to be back in my day. And I think we're succeeding, but we're just pissing off our own generation because they want to live in the back in my day. Mainframe Entertainment animated my Beast Wars, and I liked it like that. Well, I'm sorry, but Rooster Teeth fucking kills it.
Yeah.
It looks better, man. Fight me.
I don't think I've ever seen the Rooster Teeth one, but wait, is Rooster Teeth in charge of the Netflix show?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about something else. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, they're killing it. Okay.
Man, those guys have come.
Way since Ruby.
No, I was going to say they've come a long way since Red versus Blue.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Wow.
Even Ruby's it's pronounced Ruby.
Yeah,
that's pretty fucking rough. And you're like, man, they did not give up, and they are at the height of peak animation.
I was going to say they're at their peak. They're at their peak now.
Much like this podcast, we did not give up.
How good the show will ever be,
and we didn't give up. We started out rough, but we are now. I think we're doing pretty good with this shit at this point.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Lord Megatron. Change your name. What? You heard me.
He does have energy.
I actually,
Bitch.
that's basically.
What
I
is
like
your
that.
real name?
I like
It's
that part.
California, Lord Megatron. Oh, I just went Mr. Christopher from Rainbow for a second.
Oh.
Your
Yes,
name
Lord
Is
Megatron.
Galavar?
Now I want to look up the guy who voiced him. Now
Oh, I'm just gonna call you Guy.
I call you a nobody. You
I
mean
do-
nothing to me.
I do like that in the Kingdom cartoon, that G1 Megatron is like genuinely pissed off that this like sniveling like bootlicker has taken his
Yeah.
name, and like even
I-
fucking tells him to change it.
Yeah, he hates him. He fucking hates him, and I love it.
But he knows he knows that he's devoted his life to his own work, so he keeps him around.
Yeah.
He ain't no Soundwave, but he turns into a big T-Rex. So
Bonus points.
Also, I've said this 10 times before. What the fuck would Megatron do without Soundwave? Holy shit.
I mean,
I love Soundwave.
he does. He is like a big support. Like he's like a
He's
bouncer.
like if you made Scorponok competent. That's
yeah.
it. He's a
He actually does his job. He actually does a job of a bad guy. Yeah.
How does
Soundwave
Scorponok
is
sound? Because
good.
I haven't heard him talk yet.
Soundwave is good, and well, you've heard him talk in like Siege, right?
Yeah.
No,
Doesn't he? Yeah.
No,
or,
Scorponok. How does Scorponok
Oh,
sound?
Scorponok.
Because I haven't heard his voice yet.
no, I don't think he talks in.
He barely talks.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I didn't get my Scorponok itch. I really wanted him to say Megatron will reward us. No,
But no, we got Beast Wars Megatron saying Megatron.
That would be
will reward
awesome
us.
if they got, of all the voice actors from Beast Wars, they got the guy that did Scorponox to come back. Like, listen, we have a full
That
full
would've been
page
great.
monologue for you to read.
Get Christopher to come back and voice to come back. Get Christopher Siege to voice Megatron Jr. Yeah, let's call him that.
Yeah, he's
And
basically
get
that.
me to, I don't know, I'll do Rat Trap and or Scorponok. Scorponok is like one fucking line. And
I'll do Air Razor.
no, hey, how dare you?
How dare
Leave
you take
Scorponok
a
alone.
role away from a woman?
Yeah, my bad. So we were saying this earlier that Christopher Siege, you are named after the first season.
Yep.
Cal, you can be Cal Earthrise, and I can be Dan Kingdom, and it just perfectly matched up.
There you go.
These all sound like porn names, so I'm okay with it too.
Especially yours, Dan Kingdom.
Dan Kingdom,
Yeah.
holy shit, that sounds so good.
Dan Kingdom is very, yeah. Christopher Siege. Well, Chris Siege, the double S's.
Christopher Siege sounds like it could be the name of a pro wrestler, I think.
Yes, yeah, that's actually, I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Cal
Yeah.
Earthrise sounds like the name of like an anime character.
Cal Earthrise sounds like, yeah, it sounds like just a bad anime character.
So taking this from Transformers, we all have different professions with our Transformers names: porn star, anime, action hero, and wrestler. Right?
How can we bring all of those together?
How can we make a podcast about all these three fake characters?
Well, I would be on one of the Japanese Beast Wars movies.
That's true.
Hopefully, I'll just fucking die like Ultra Magnus does in everything.
No, you'll
I'll
be
be the voice
you'll
of
be-
reason,
you'll be-
and I'll
you'll be
die
stuck-
early on.
you'll be stuck babysitting Lio Jr.
Oh my god.
Wait, what else does Ultra Magnus die in?
Transformers the movie, and he dies in Siege, yeah.
Yeah, he dies in Siege. I didn't know what else. Like,
Or
I
no,
didn't know he died
well-
in the movie.
He gets blown up, but then they put him back together.
Oh, okay.
As long as the spark
He dies in the
casing isn't-
Waspinator sense.
Yeah. As long as
Yeah.
there's a MacGuffin in your chest, you should be free to live another day.
Unless you're shot in the torso by purple energy, then you just turn into dust in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how that works.
I don't write the rules.
I don't
Oh,
write
I
it all.
finally-
No.
I sort of unrelated, but Christopher Siege was like, you should watch The Toys That Made Us,
Oh, in the Netflix show, yeah.
Yeah.
the Netflix show, and I did for Transformers. The narrator, I want to strangle him. The constant quick editing and the sound effects, terrible. But the interviewing parts and the actual, like, it's like a 20-minute like mini doc stretched into 45 minutes. It
Yeah.
is genuinely great. The information they provide is great, but woo, wow, it is made for a YouTube audience.
Oh,
That is
wow.
like a college
Yeah.
project. Holy shit, the editing is crazy.
I have to go
But
back and watch that now. I don't remember seeing that.
the when you get past the insufferable editing and the narrator, when they do interviews and they capture the emotional moments of the people they bring on the show and the hard facts, the timelines and stuff, I fucking like it. And the Transformers was pretty freaking great.
Yeah, it's quite informative. I just wish that they didn't they really gloss over the Beast Wars era.
It's sacrilege.
It's like less than 60 seconds. They spend like 10 minutes going from 1985 to 90, and then they spend like 60 seconds going from like 92 to 2007.
You're making me not
I'm
want
like-
to watch it now.
It is
like-
actually quite informative if you're interested at all. Like the beginning is quite interesting because it talks about like the toy line's genesis as being like two like completely separate, like unrelated toy lines in Japan.
Yeah.
That
I think
Hasbro
that's what it says in the book. That's
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
read in the
Basic-
book, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Basically,
Diaclone
Beast
and
Wars-
something else.
Oh, so not really spoilers. The reason that the Maximals all look like animals, sorry, the Autobots all look like
Cars.
vehicles, but the Decepticons all just look like stuff, is because those two are from different timelines.
Completely different, two completely separate toy lines. Like one is I think the Autobots were Diaclone and
Yeah.
the Decepticons were all like from something else.
That's so
which
great.
is which is why all of the Diaclones were all about vehicles, and I can't remember what toy line what it was. We're just different
I can't
stuff.
either.
Like Soundwave was a cassette player, and
And they just
this one
combined
turns into a gun, and his name is Gunbot.
And somebody had a cassette player on their desk, and they're like, wait a minute, that's a Transformer.
There's one guy to thank for naming all of the two American toy line of the Autobots and Decepticons. What a
And,
hero.
like, and coming up with the backstory like of like the war on Cybertron and stuff. It was a dude who worked at Marvel Comics as like a low level editor. And
That's
they gave
awesome.
they gave it to
Hero.
him because no one else wanted it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And you know what? Because apparently working with like toys was like your career's over kind of thing. Like working
Little-
out kid toys, like writing
little
for that
did they
stuff.
know.
Was like, huh?
Little did they know.
Oh, little did they know.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm glad that it went down the ladder to that guy. I can't remember his name right now, but like, wow, great names, man. We have that single guy to thank for the story, their profiles, their personalities, and
Yeah.
their name.
Yeah,
So
I'm
it's worth
blank-
watching. It's like 40 minutes.
I'm blanking on his name right now, but he's very well known in the comics. He's considered like a legend in comics now,
cool.
but at the time he was just a nobody working at Marvel.
That's awesome.
The show does gloss over the fact that Beast Wars literally saved, like very literally saved all of Transformers.
Yeah. It was dead in the
Actually.
mid-90s.
Yeah, it was like, hey, people were done with them changing into like vehicles and spaceships, and they got worse and worse. Christopher showed me like there were ones that disguised as humans, but they were just shells that came apart because
Pretenders, yeah.
they lost the
Yeah.
contract with the Japanese toy makers, and they were just shit. They were no longer complicated. A
No.
shell just came apart.
Yeah, nobody gives
And then-
Beast Wars credit for that.
And then with Beast Wars, they got the Japanese toy makers back in line, and kids loved that they were animals, and the cartoon was like great.
Hasbro created the concept of them and the characters of them like being of them turning into animals, and so
Yeah.
they, for the first time ever, actually went to Takara, the Japanese toy
Takara.
company, and worked together with them to develop a toy line. So Beast Wars was the first time that Hasbro and Takara actually developed a toy line together, instead of before Hasbro just took their toys and repurposed them.
And 25
Yeah.
years later, there's a podcast dedicated to that saving grace of Transformers.
And
Yeah.
it was named Stasis. It was named Too Much
yeah.
Energon.
Axelon Archives.
Yeah, he was telling me about the other ones that I had no idea existed. When I originally looked up Beast Wars on podcasts, yours was the only one I saw. Had no clue there were two others.
That reminds me, actually. So like you're a
You just typed
podcaster
that in
yourself.
and
You've
found
been
it.
you're a podcaster yourself, and you've been doing this longer than we have, in fact. But you're coming onto this show as a listener as well. So how did you discover this show? Like, I'm curious, genuinely curious.
So I look on Tubi a lot, like randomly. I go on Tubi. I'm like, yeah, they're free movies. I'm gonna see what's going on. So I saw Beast Wars show up on there. I'm like, oh shit! Like, I haven't seen Beast Wars, and like, I think I did a full rewatch maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I think that was the first time I fully rewatched most of season 2 and season 3. Everything I remembered was from season 1. I think general consensus of people our age, like all the moments you think of were season 1. So I was like,
season 1 of Beast Wars is best Beast Wars.
Yeah. So I rewatched the whole series 4 or 5 years ago. I loved it. And then didn't really remember much. So I put it on Tubi and I watched maybe like 3 or 4 of them. I had like a random thought. I'm like, there's a fucking podcast about everything. I'm just going to go on Spotify and look up Beast Wars, Transformers, and I click on the podcast tab and see anything. And then it came up Too Much Energon. And I'm like, okay. Like, there's literally, and I remember texting my brother and being like, yo, I literally searched for Beast Wars podcast, and there's actually one that exists. Like, I was so like, it actually blew me away.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I listened from episode 1. I know there's a good chunk that I haven't listened to because I was watching, and then I was I would watch an episode and then listen to you guys. So it was probably, and you guys did them in a certain order, because I don't know if they're the same order as they were in Tubi.
No, we did them in
Production?
We did them in production order, which is a big, like, the production order, the US broadcast order, and the Canadian broadcast order are all 3 very different things.
Yeah, so
season 1.
Yeah, so episode 7 for you would be like episode 10 on Tubi or something,
Yeah.
for example. So it would kind of throw me off. So I think
It's not off too much, but we do mention we're only nitpicky about like the production order as we're getting into it so much, because like on TV, all of a sudden there's an ant one.
Yeah, there's a new robot, and you don't know who they are.
Exactly, yeah.
Whereas the
Fucking
production
Inferno.
order
Yeah.
is chronologically as written. And
Yeah.
oh, that makes sense. This is where Inferno's from, and he's not just in a past episode by mistake. Yeah.
So I wanted it. So that was a fun thing to do, because I was watching and then listening, and then I stopped watching for a bit, and then I would just listen, and then you guys would come out with an episode of like maybe one of the episodes that I remember from years ago, and I'd be like, oh, I remember this one, so I have it in my head. I remembered. So I think I listened to your one. I watched it or listened to it first. I forget, but there was always that one fucking terrible episode where Rhinox farts and sneezes and poops and farts on Megatron at the end. And when I watched it, when I saw that episode for the first time, like 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, this might be one of the worst episodes of television I've ever seen in my entire life. And then I was so excited for you guys to get to it. So I think I watched it again, and I'm like, yeah, this sucks. This is like crazy that it's like super goofy. Maybe sneezing and farting and stuff. And then you guys talked about it.
Many episodes before, as it's coming up, Christopher, like,
I was
oh
dreading
boy,
it. I was dreading it.
oh, here it comes.
Yeah, it's the
Did you
weirdest
listen to us
episode.
talk about it?
Yeah, it's terrible. I listened to that episode too. And
We
I think
I was pleasantly surprised because like Cal was saying, I was dreading it for just so fucking long. I was pleasantly surprised that watching it now as an adult, looking at it as literally just an episode of Looney Tunes,
yeah, that's basically what it was.
it is fucking hilarious. And like we're gonna do a top 10 episodes of Beast Wars for our like 25th anniversary special episode that's coming up in a couple months. It's going to be in my top 10. It quite unexpectedly became like one of my favorite episodes of Beast Wars.
I
That's
went
funny.
into it expecting like nothing and was like shocked that there's an underlying like decent plot. But
It's very
like
paper thin in there. Yeah.
that it's I actually think it's one of the better episodes. We both gave it too much energon, and like obviously people don't have to listen to us, right? Like sometimes Christopher and I are way off base. He'll give something too much energon, and I'll be like, ugh. Or I'll give something too much energon, and he'll be like, really? But like I was like, we were like, is this good? Yeah,
Could it
yeah.
possibly be good? Could it be peak Beast Wars?
Is such a thing even possible?
I mean, we'll
Yes, I
find out
can.
when the movie comes out next year. We'll find out how high peak Beast Wars can go.
I figured out that I legit loved that episode when I could not contain my laughter as I was recapping what was going on.
All right, fair enough. I guess
Just
maybe I'll have to
recapping
give
it was
it.
like
I mean, I watched it maybe like whenever you did that, so maybe a couple months ago. But maybe I'll have to rewatch it again with another set of eyes. But I knew I was falling behind, so I didn't watch any of season 2 or 3, but heard you guys talk about them in Transmetal when Inferno showed up and stuff like that. And then when you guys would do like the commentary for the movie, because when they discovered them at the end of season 1, that was the end of season 1, right? And they
Season
discovered the
2.
Ark. Season 2, they discovered the Ark. So then you guys did the movie. Yeah, so like you're only like one of 2 or 3 podcasts that I actually listen to. So before I started podcasting, I was getting into podcasts and I'm like, oh, there's so many, like I'm going to listen to everything. And then when you start podcasting, it just becomes so overwhelming because there's just a giant pool of likes and things you want to listen to people talk about. So Transformers Beast Wars was like a random thing that I always loved. And so I went looking for a specific Beast Wars podcast and found it. Another one I listened to is I was telling Christopher that I listened to a podcast that was doing a rewatch of Mortal Kombat Conquest, the live action Mortal Kombat show from the 90s.
Right.
So
wow,
they're like
yeah.
they're like you, where they kind of ended the show. So now they're just doing a rewatch of like the Mortal Kombat cartoon from the 90s, and they watched the movies. So they're kind of stretching out. And the third one, I listened to a Guns N' Roses podcast that I frequently go on. So 3 podcasts completely different, and none of them are video game related. So it's just funny that like I've tried to listen to video game podcasts, so I tried to like listen to podcasts of things that I do enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I feel like, especially in the category that I listen to, a lot of video game podcasts are all the same because you guys have a distinct thing that you talk about. All video game podcasts, they either just talk about something that just got announced, or like they talk about an old game and they won't stop praising it, and that's all they do. They just suck its dick. Like it's just nonstop. And I'm like, that's not how the real world is. These games, some of these games weren't good, so stop saying they were.
To the detriment of our own popularity, we are incredibly harsh to the thing we love.
Yeah, exactly. So
nothing is above scrutiny.
The other Beast Wars podcasts could easily just love everything that happens in the show and just adore and I think Christopher was saying that the other one is like an interview series or not interview, but like they talk about updates with the cast and like it's kind of a more discussion news podcast.
Yeah, behind the scenes rather than the
Yeah, they're like,
direct media.
Yeah.
this figure is coming out, and this is what Gary Primal is up to. This is the new
Yeah.
role that he's
I
in.
don't want to listen to a podcast of something I can look up on Wikipedia. Like you guys make it different because someone can easily watch the show with you guys, but you guys are voicing your opinion, like you're recapping it, but you're also throwing like your own flair in there. A lot of people
Or just like go off the rails and start
go
making
off the
up their own
rails.
plot and
Yeah. Or making up your own names, making up your own petitions, making up, like all that shit. Like a lot of people just stick to either their own script or Wikipedia. And that's when I realized I can only listen to like 2 or 3 podcasts, like in general. So I listen
we
to
have that
2 or
meme.
3. What's that?
We have that meme script guy. And we're like, oh fuck, we're becoming too much like script guy. Or
Yeah.
like we're recapping word for word an episode that we like really like. And we pretend like there's always this one fan whenever we're like, oh, we're not sure why this happens. But anyways, and we move on. Man, we don't care enough.
Yeah.
Dig in to every single like little detail, right? And so we sound and are filthy casuals about it
Yeah.
because we don't want to just recite the script to people listening.
Yeah, we fell into that trap for like a few episodes there, like kind of by accident, and we both like realized at the same time, like literally after an episode, Cal's like, "So do you feel like we're like maybe just like going over this like too much in too much detail?" I'm like, "Yes, actually, I've been thinking about
I'm
that."
guilty of that too. I definitely did that. And I made a tweet recently because I made a joke about how you kind of go through 3 stages of podcasting. Your first stage is you do all the research you can, and the whole episode is just research, or you're reading it while you're doing it, and you ask your co-host to do as much research as you. The second stage is you do
And then they don't.
Yeah. The second stage is you do research and you ask your co-host to do some of it, and then you talk a little bit. And then the third stage is not doing any research and maybe talking about the specific thing for like 5 minutes, and the rest is just you and not giving a fuck. And I feel like once I hit stage 3, I'm just gonna pull example because you said you listened to it recently. We did an episode about the Konami code, or the theme of it was supposed to be about the Konami code.
Yeah.
The episode was like 45 minutes long. I'm going to say a good like 20 to 25 minutes was dedicated to a guy me and my co-host haven't seen in 15 years. And we used to be friends with him, and we shit talked him because he didn't invite us to his wedding. So we just talked about him nonstop, like as if it was the biggest thing in the world. And we talked about the Konami code for like the last 5-10 minutes.
We're familiar.
I
Fucking Hank.
Hank, yeah, when I was listening to that, because I discovered your show because you actually reached out to me and was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm listening to your show and think it's really funny." So I checked out your show too, and that was the first episode that I heard. When you guys
recommended it to me, and
when
that's
you
the
guys-
first episode I listened.
when you
It's a good
guys
game
like
plan.
went on this big like tangent, basically making up your own like fake canon about like what Hank's life has been like, I'm like, I see why he thinks we're funny, and I think they're very funny as well. And right then, I was like, I'm going to keep listening to this guy's show, and eventually, I think I might reach out and ask him to be on Too Much Energon.
I mean, and you asked me like a month ago. So I was like, a month away is like good.
Yeah.
Because I knew to like keep that day open and stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's like literally a perfect example of the kind of other podcasts I would listen to where like you talk about the thing, but also fill it with as much of yourself as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I was guilty of like reading the Wikipedia and stuff like that. And that's why I like your show. And that's why I like the guys that do a Mortal Kombat show. Like, I can't listen to too many shows because I feel like too many shows out there are just reading what's written down somewhere.
I'm guilty of like listening to like yours, like Dude Soup on and off.
I never heard of Dude
and
Soup.
nothing
Okay.
else.
What are they talking about? Anything?
What's that?
I never heard of Dude Soup before.
It's Fun Houses podcast, and they used to be Inside Gaming.
Oh, you said Inside Gaming earlier. I didn't know what that was. Okay.
Yeah, and Inside Gaming used to be a machinima thing.
I forgot Machinima even existed. Did they make that Transformers show on YouTube?
The Power of the Primes one, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Full circle. Look at
It does not exist anymore.
that. Yeah, so yeah, I started out as a listener. You're one of the few shows I listen to, and I have checked out some of the YouTube videos, like 1 or 2 of them so far. But yeah, I mean, you guys, we're literally at the same number of episodes too, which is kind of funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we only do we used to do like 1 a month, and then we took 4 months off for a while, and then got into a month. So we don't do as many episodes as you. So we've been doing it longer, but we just hit the same milestone as you.
Sweet. So you're on like a bi-weekly?
Yeah, we try to do. Sometimes, like yesterday, we released. Was yesterday Wednesday? Yeah, yesterday we released an episode because yesterday was our 2-year anniversary, and it was the 50th episode. So we were like, we're just going to release it on that day. So we usually release it on like a Friday or a Monday. But now we're like, let's do it like bi-weekly. Let's do it like, I don't know, 17 days. Let's do whatever. Like I kind of just put it out when I want, when I feel like it's like finished.
I'm okay with that. Some people are like, where's my show? And you have to keep, to keep your audience, you have to keep a certain release like schedule. Yeah. But when you have no audience like us,
the world's your oyster. Yeah,
you can just wing it. And yet, no, we've been really like consistent
every Thursday.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I always see the tweet. Yeah,
and yeah, and but to be honest, and this is why I like certain channels. Like I'm not paid, but like Funhouse, right? So Rooster Teeth, the bigger company that owns Rooster Teeth is Time Warner, Warner Studios,
Warner Media.
Warner Media. Thank you. But you've heard of Achievement Hunter?
Yes. Yeah.
Achievement Hunter kind of like releases like 45-minute, hour-long, unedited like let's plays of stuff. And Funhouse is the adult version of that, where they edit things down into 10, 15-minute like videos. Right? It's okay that your show doesn't need to come out like weekly at this time or whatever, or bi-weekly or like whatever. Man, I'm an adult. I don't have time to play the games I want to play, watch the movies I want to. What the fuck happened, man? Like, and it's been a year since Christopher Siege and I have been doing this. Like, I don't have time for like all of this stuff, and I'm completely content with like going back to your like episode 1, right, and then watching that. And maybe 3 days later, a month later, or whenever, watching the next one. Maybe the same day because I'm driving everywhere.
Yeah,
I'll listen to it like then, and that's fine. So I understand there are different like types of listeners. For example, we have some listeners who like you can tell that they're listening to us like every day because they're commenting on the YouTube. The comment section.
That's pretty awesome.
And there's one guy in particular who's like slamming through Alphanumeric, our reboot podcast. Yeah. And he's commenting on everything, like live as he's watching it. He'll be talking about what parts we're talking about.
I mean, that's pretty awesome. That's a good feeling, right?
That guy, at least that guy's listening to us. And it's fine. Yeah. Everybody ingests things at different speeds. But for me, I don't know about Christopher Siege. I was going to ask his take, since we've all kind of talked about this consuming and producing like part. But for me, I don't care about schedule. I don't Patreon support anyone, and I need to, right? And I should, especially the ones I like. And I don't need to keep a schedule because I feel like I have way too much media.
Yeah, so if you come across it and you see it pop up on your feed, you're like, oh, a new episode of so-and-so, I can watch it. Like, you're not like adhering to the schedule that you both made up in your head.
Well, with Christopher Siege, so that I don't get crazy, we make these on schedule and we adhere to them. But the way I ingest media is just like I'm a tired old man and I can only like I finally
take it one thing at a time.
I finally beat Nier Automata, like 4 years after it came out, and I'm like,
Yeah, I
"Oh
was gonna
man, this
say
game's so good," and everyone's like, "Dude, that's an old game. It's like
it's
half a
not
decade
old to
old."
me.
Yeah,
It's
Christopher
still new
Siege.
to me, damn it.
It's still the feels are real to me, and they're still fresh. Christopher Siege, you tend to like new things and watch them as they come out, and you tend to support your. I don't think you listen to a ton of stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the stuff you listen to fairly quickly, and you do support directly, right?
Yes. Yeah, so generally with podcasts, like I don't care so much when they come out. I'm pretty adamant about like, it's Thursday, it's Too Much Energon. It's alphanumeric. Friday, it's alphanumeric. It's Monday,
When
it's
we
beta.
produce
It's
things,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, like that has nothing to do with me as a consumer. That's just me that's just me be like professionalism on my part. I'm like, okay, this is when we do it, so I need to do this thing and get it out at this time
Mhm.
because and like I don't care if shows that I listen to do that because most of them don't.
yeah, neither do I.
Mhm.
But for me, it's something I feel. It's something like I feel like I need to do, and indeed, like
Me too. Me too,
every
actually. I know I was late today,
Yes.
but like I actually do. It gives me some structure.
yeah, same, and
Like,
for me, it's gratifying. Like
Mhm.
yeah.
every week when we do these shows and hammer them out consistently,
Feels
and
like
like
an
I
accomplishment. Like you accomplished something at the end of your day.
exactly,
In the
yeah,
very
Yeah.
least, if I sat on my fat ass all week, like Homer Simpson with like nacho crumbs on my fucking like wife beater and
Yeah.
right, and I'm like, oh, what day is it? Oh, it's time to shave and take a shower and do too much energon. And then I'm like, yeah, I fucking did something today.
Yeah. It's a small
It's
feat. I mean, it's not a small feat, but it's like it's a feat that at the end of the day you can be like, hey, I did too much energon tonight. Like tomorrow I get to record another thing and I do it every week and it's a ritual.
yeah,
So
well, and I
yeah.
had someone recently like complain because they like I'm not going to get too much into it, but
do it, do
they
it, do
they
it.
they've been wanting to hang out a lot over the past like month or so, and like days that they keep proposing, I'm like, oh, I work that day, which I'm like, I've had the same work schedule for like 2 years now, like. And they're like, okay, well, what about this day? And I'm like, I do a podcast. I've been doing a podcast every Thursday for the past year now. And they're like, okay, well, what about Friday? I'm like, I've been doing a
I do
podcast
another podcast.
every Friday for nearly a year now. And they're like, okay, well, what about Monday? And I'm like, I do another podcast. So I work full time. I work 40 plus hours a week. Plus I walk to and from work, which it's not a short walk, so that adds like another like hour and a half
Mhm.
out of my day. Uh,
That's
I
exercise. Don't change
I
that.
I I do these shows. They're usually like the base like free like podcasting content that I do every week is like anywhere from like 4.5 to like 6 hours.
It
Oh, wow.
it takes
And
up that
and
afternoon or that evening for you.
and then I have all of my post-production stuff that I have to do, which adds like another couple of hours per show onto that. And not only that, but because we actually have Patreon subscribers, which if you're one, thank you. We love you. We do Patreon exclusive shows now. And I mean, like it's very like loosey goosey, like shoot the shit
Mhm.
stuff, like Lasercomb Tonight, our like dumb news show. But like that's another half hour to an hour of like recording. So plus we have all of our like preamble stuff. So
Yeah.
point is like I work like point is like I have a very very busy week. Um
Mhm.
working and like this was a very roundabout way of saying that like podcasting has almost like become like a second job, even though
Yeah,
I
it's
make
basically like the other half of your life. Yeah.
even though like I barely make any money off of it, but
Yeah.
It's basically become like a second job to me. And you know what? I love doing it.
I was going to say it's not like a job. I understand you saying that, but it's fulfilling to you.
It's much more fulfilling than the job that pays the bills.
That's what I was going to
I
say.
was gonna
Like a
say,
second
yeah,
job makes
yeah.
it seem like, oh, it's like a second job, except I don't get paid. It's fulfilling. It's one of those things where you're in your mid-30s and you're like, man, why didn't I fucking do this? Or, oh man, I always talked about like doing this with this person or like whatever. And so at least it's one out of the 10 things where you're like, every year I'm not like bemoaning that I didn't go and fucking do this thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Christopher and I have been like, oh yeah, we'll totally do like a podcast, like loosey goosey, reminding each other of it for 5 years.
Damn. Wow.
More than I
Well,
was explaining this to Dan earlier in the preamble, but I'll mention it in the episode. So me and Cal have been talking about doing a podcast together since like 2014, but we never had an idea for one. And like another friend of mine like also wanted to do the show with us and was like, oh, it could just be like us, like three guys like shooting the shit. And I'm like, that's not really a concept for a show.
I
That's
hate that. I hate shows that do that. I'm sorry. I'm
that,
so glad you didn't do that.
yeah, that's why I didn't do that, because I'm like,
not have a direction.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You stay for the personalities.
yeah,
But don't get me wrong. But if your pitch is, hey, these three nobodies talk about nothing. Seinfeld worked because it's a TV show.
Yeah.
Seinfeld for free on YouTube sucks.
Seinfeld for free on YouTube. I like that.
Okay, hear me
So-
out. It's like Seinfeld, except these losers sit on a couch and talk about their shitty lives.
yeah, it's a show that no one but the three of us would want to listen to.
Yeah.
So I never had a concept for a show, and then a couple of years ago, as speaking of Patreon, as a Patreon exclusive, a couple of film critics that I'm a big fan of, whose podcast that I listen to, the critically acclaimed network, William Bibiani and Whitney Seibold. If you read movie reviews on The Wrap or IGN, sometimes they're written by them. Very, very, I've interacted with them like on Google Hangouts and whatnot. They're very, very delightful people. But they had a Patreon exclusive show called All Our Yesterdays, which was covering every episode of Star Trek ever, one episode at a time, in a very like similar fashion to what we do. They like summarize what happens in the episode and then comment on it. And so last year, I was like drunk one night and had popped out my Beast Wars DVDs because I was feeling super nostalgic, and was watching Beast Wars, and 100% drunken idea. I was like, oh, we could do like All Our Yesterdays, but like we could do it about Beast Wars. No one's podcasting about, who the fuck's going to podcast about Beast Wars? Let's do it. Little did I know there are other Beast
There were
Wars
two
podcasts.
others, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you did message me at like midnight or something. I worked graveyards for a decade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is why I look 50. So like Christopher always knew he can just text me like fucking whenever, right? My phone's either on silent and I'm asleep or I'm awake. I don't give a shit. Text me whenever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was maybe it was later than that. And he's like, fuck it, man. Do you want to do a Beast Wars podcast? And in 15 seconds or less, I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. And so we set it up. We're like, okay, let's like when will work? And Cal was like, well, I can do Thursdays. And I'm like, okay, I'm off work at like this time on Thursdays. And Thursday is my Friday. And that Thursday is my Friday at work. And so like I can go as late as I need to with recording. So yada yada yada. And here we are. 50 episodes later.
Here we are.
Here we are.
24 listeners.
Here we are.
strong.
Here we are. Here we are. Here we are.
I
Yeah,
think
you were
we have
just saying.
more than 24 listeners.
You were saying that like you didn't want it to become a chore. I think you said that at some point, like how you kind of didn't want it to be. I guess in my head, like I never wanted it to become unfun or a chore or seem like a second job, or like where I
Right.
put too much work into it, where I feel like it's not exuding anything or like any kind
Yeah.
of pleasure out of it. I think I hit that. I was telling Christopher before that I almost hit that because I started off doing it by myself, and for the most part, I had my co-host on like once every few episodes, but it was still just me. And I was gonna stop doing it because I'm like one person. It's just not. If you listen to one person to a podcast, it's the craziest thing. I can't believe I did that. So like at the right before I decided to make Nick my co-host, I was actually gonna stop doing it. And then I realized that like, okay, I'm only gonna do it when I say he's my co-host. I'm only gonna do it when he can do it with me. So then from here on out, it'll only be fun because I've known my co-host since we were 5 years old. So we've known each other for like almost 30 years.
Insane.
So I would only do it with him. And then it like breathed new life into it for me because I was like, oh, this isn't just a chore anymore where I feel like I have to read Wikipedia or read something on my phone or talk to a wall. I can finally bounce off someone. And then everything was going great. And then last year I hit the point where I thought it might have been too overbearing and too much. And so last September, we went on like a 4 month hiatus just out of nowhere. I just texted Nick and I was like, hey man, like I can't do this right now. I just feel like I'm not in it right now. So we just took 4 months off, just didn't do anything. And then when we came back in January, I'm like, I feel like I have the energy now to put in. I don't think I had the energy in me anymore. And I think I had the energy again to put into it in January. I'm like, I'm going to put as much as I can. And that's why we kind of went into that phase 3 where we do kind of a little research and just make it us. And so starting in January, the episodes are a little bit different because like you heard, we talked about a guy named Hank for like 30 minutes. So that's basically like how we wanted to format our episodes now for the most part, where there are episodes that have come where we have a specific thing and we talk about that for the most part. But
Your Pokemon
I feel like I never
episode.
the Pokemon episode, yeah.
I think that's my favorite one you've done so far because neither of you know anything about Pokemon.
Yeah,
and I don't fucking know anything about Pokemon either.
We were just discovering it in the moment.
I used to feel bad, but now it's kind of really funny in hindsight. And now it's the only way I can operate that we'll be talking about something, Christopher and I on whatever show we're doing. And then,
Yeah.
well, wait a sec. I'm just going to fucking look this up. And
yeah.
And we're like, oh, and like we learned something on the show.
Yeah, I mean,
there are things we Google beforehand just because it's almost more fun. Like you said, you took a break from it or whatever. If it's not fun for you, then don't do it.
And I do not to throw him under the bus, but he knows I throw him under the bus. But I do everything. So all I ask for the guy Nick is to like, hey, say we're gonna do an episode on this game. Look up this. We'll do it Saturday, whatever. Like I do all the editing. The editing now isn't that much, but I used to do all the editing, the releasing, the social media, like all this stuff. So I did everything.
It's the same with me. Generally, all I ask of people is just show up.
Yeah. So, and I'm not even faulting him, but like because I was doing so much, it was I wasn't getting
some people.
Back.
It is.
Yeah. So it was a little difficult. So I was just, and I think it was in the middle of COVID. September was still like peak COVID. So I'm like, I got a lot on my head. I can't have this fun right now because it won't be fun because I have other stuff in my mind. So. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that. We have another show where there are 4 hosts.
Yep.
Oh wow.
And every once in a while someone can't make it. Whatevs, no big deal. And everyone was like a little bit freaking out because the Siegeatron, the Christophertron,
Siegeatron
couldn't make it. And he was like, "Oh, hey, Cal, can you do this or this?" And so Googled, how does this work? Do. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, I understand how the bot that we use to record works. Okay, cool. And the others
worked out perfectly fine.
And the others thought I was like a fucking wizard. to have like learned Christopher Siege's job that took him decades to get here in like mere hours. And I'm like, man, I googled like how
I
to
just
do this
looked it
in
up.
55 minutes.
That's how I learned like literally
Yeah.
everything relating to these shows. I just
But-
fucking Googled it.
But now I'm like, oh, you know what? I and I'll talk to Christopher Siege later about it. I'm gonna buy a rig so I can fucking render stuff.
So now
new
you know-
webcam, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And you know what? I want to start editing and do, and so I can like do all of this stuff. But it's manager syndrome. Do you know what that
No.
that is?
No.
So it's probably called something else. So there's this thing where you're paid less than managers and you're at a job that you're not like super enthused about and you don't know how something works or if you should do something. So you go get a manager and they tell you confidently, and it's something you probably already knew, but that you were confident enough in, right?
Mhm.
If you have just the slightest will to actually go and do something, it's very easy to go and do that. But it's not inherent in people to just do it. I'm not trying to like insult anybody or whatever. Everybody's willing to put in so much effort into something, and you should get out of it what you put in.
Yeah.
Christopher Siege wants to do this, right? He came to the realization like, I don't want to be 60 and not have done
Not
this
having
shit,
done
right?
a Beast Wars podcast.
Beast Wars podcast.
Although we also joke that we are 60 and we're doing like episode like 1200 of Too Much
I see
Energon.
it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But the manager
By
syndrome.
that point, we're
is-
just talking about the original like Diaclone toys because
Yeah,
we've
you
run
went-
out of
you went
everything
full
else.
circle.
fuck it, why not? But like the manager syndrome is just all this shit is actually really easy to do. The only reason the manager is necessary is because people don't want to use the 10% of extra brain power to do extra work.
Mm.
And I understand that, and I don't hold anything against that, right? But sometimes it really is. People just have enough time to show up, be present
Mhm.
on something, and then like peace out. Even if they have the time to completely help and learn and all this stuff. Like for example, one of our co-hosts has OBS and has had it for months longer than me. And apparently I figured out how to fucking use OBS faster in 10
Before
minutes
them.
than this guy's had it for months.
Probably still
How
have you.
did you do that? Or how? Google is a mysterious mistress, my friend, right? And then I'm like, wait a second, I used to edit audio and video for like funsies, like back, and I used to, you know what? I'm gonna be doing that stuff now. I want to go and do that stuff, and it's just the people that take on the responsibility for that is usually just because they want to. That's the only difference.
Yeah, like if I was actually, I mean, same thing. I might just be speaking for Chris too, but I feel like if we didn't want to do it, we would I would definitely ask Nick to do more. Like he might have, like I don't have an issue with doing all the work. It seems like Chris enjoys doing all the editing and doing all the work too. If we actually disliked it or saw like a gap where the other person wasn't doing as much, I feel like I would say to Nick, I feel like he would probably ask you to contribute something, like
Christopher and I have come to the point where I can be like, I don't really like that. Did you like that? And he'll be like, oh, I thought it was fine. And I'll be like, no, I didn't fucking like that.
all right,
And he'll be like,
that's
"Oh,
good. That's
okay."
Yeah.
Or he'll be like, yeah, I thought that was bad, or like whatever. It's weird. You get like two friends in your life where you can be like, that's fucking stupid, and they don't unfriend you.
yeah. Yeah.
Like, so you need to find those friends to be. I almost to the point of I was almost worried if I was going to get kicked off the show. There's moments where I'm
Really?
like, there's moments where I was like, I want the show's name to be this. And everyone else was like, no, or they were indifferent. And I'm like, no, this is what I've contributed, Dan. Me being present.
Cal came up with the name Too Much Energon. And it's a
great.
great
being
name. It's a great
Yeah.
name.
And naming things. That's it. That's all I've contributed.
So you're going to take those two things and make sure you go full throttle with those two things that you're good at.
And I felt really strongly about the name of the reboot one and the name of this one. And even if it's butting heads with some people, and I think Christopher has made it a point of being like, no, I like that now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it now. Little did I know, naming it Too Much Energon meant that we will talk about Transformers for 10,000 years now.
Yeah, you're
And
cursed. It's
4
a curse
million
now.
years, please.
Yeah. 4 million cycles. Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, cycles.
Yeah, it would be cycles, yeah.
Nobody knows how much time that is. Nobody.
An
Or
entire
click.
Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, isn't it
Yes.
clicks and cycles, right?
Yeah,
But
so it's,
yeah, to summarize my thoughts, I really handle all of the back end and production stuff and all of that because I want to and I like doing it.
Mhm.
And I've even mentioned to Cal off air before that I actually would be interested in being parts of shows where I'm literally just producing them. Like I'm not a
cool.
on-air personality.
Mm.
one
pretty
thing I was like, oh, wait a second, like there's a little bit of an edge that we have over a lot of others, and it might seem silly, but Christopher mixing the little intros is like that little level of production that a lot of other podcasts don't necessarily have.
Some people
Like-
just start podcast. Like sometimes other podcasts just start. Like if I'm listening on Spotify, I'll give someone a chance, and literally someone just start talking with no break, no like bookend. You know, you guys have a bookend. You have the song. You have like, you know, it's just crazy. Like people do no editing at all. Like, yeah, it is unique that you guys do that.
Like certain other Beast Wars podcasts
Yeah.
that shall remain nameless.
And some people do have intros, but they're like, 5 minutes long, and they're plugging its own show. And I'm like, but I'm already. And we plug our own show every single fucking time at the end. Yes, I know. But you can fucking skip that if you want, right? But like,
Yeah.
it's weird skipping the beginning of something. And I'm like, why are you plugging your own show and like your sponsors and stuff in a pre-recorded thing in the first 5 minutes? I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Well,
that was have you guys ever done that? Like with like a sponsor type thing?
Oh,
No.
we get sponsored all the time. I'll have you know.
Well,
I'm just
Anchor.
happy that people have bought T-shirts relating to our shows
Yeah,
and subscribed
that's
to
okay.
us on Patreon.
That's pretty
I'm
awesome.
actually convinced that it's actually all Christopher, and then nobody has bought.
He just has like a
any
pile
our-
of shirts.
No,
We used to, because
yeah.
we belong to Anchor, or so yeah, we still belong to Anchor. But for a period of time, they were our sponsor. So for every play, if we recorded like a sponsor ad saying, "Hey, go to Anchor and make a podcast," we would put it in episodes, and then we would make like a penny from every play that would get. That's obviously not a lot of money, but when we did it, we recorded these little ads, and we didn't really know where to put them because I'm like, I kind of just hate. I hate that idea of, you're right. Like, why would I just be talking about, hey, go check out my show, go use this? And I feel like for me, it's not natural to turn into an infomercial. To be like, hey, go on Anchor. And we read this script that they sent to us for like 30 seconds to a minute. And I'm like, I can't do this. So what we did was we made like a normal one, normal-esque, that was like a minute long. And then we also made these ones to make it more fun for us, because we still had to read the ads, but we wanted to like just make it goofy. So we changed the scenario every time. So one of the scenarios was one of us played Abraham Lincoln, another one played like his servant, and he started explaining it to him. But the twist in the ad was the servant was John Wilkes Booth.
Oh
So-
shit.
And then another one was that Anchor. So I got a phone call in the middle of the night. These are all like minute or minute and a half ads that we made to promote Anchor, and Anchor probably hated it because they stopped doing our sponsors. But another one, I got a phone call
They're
in the
like,
middle
we're
of the night.
tired of these
Yeah.
guys shit.
He's gonna making fun of us. I got a phone call in the middle of the night, and it was Nick. And Nick was saying he's acting all scared because he said Anchor has him hostage, and he has him and his kids hostage, or else. And he starts reading the promo, and he's like, "You can make a podcast whenever you want. Please save my kids." And I'm like, "Dude, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Like, stay where you are." And it's
I've heard that one. Yeah,
it's just fucking weird. And I'm 100% sure that they heard these ads and they recently stopped giving us money. And I'm like, it kind of makes sense because I'm not like I'm not like I can't be serious about this stuff. I don't want to promote myself in the episode like for real, and I don't want to promote these like other things.
The funny thing is, those are actually my favorite ad reads. So if like the no companies that are listening to this, and like that's like the new age of advertising. Christopher and I had talked about the making fun of your own product advertising that started in the 2000s with like the juicy fruit commercials where the guy's singing on the guitar and like teenagers come up and they smash his guitar and they go, "Nice song, man," and they put juicy fruit in their mouth, and I'm like, is that a juicy fruit commercial where they're ripping on juicy fruit?
Yeah,
like that's funnier.
Yeah.
So if they didn't like that, they are out of touch with the youth, because those are my favorite ad reads. Those are the only tolerable ones.
Touch
and that makes me more interested in the advertising.
Men in their 30s.
Yeah. We were scared to put them in the beginning because, like you said, like you don't want like someone doing an ad in the beginning. So I had to like find breaks to like split them up. So that's like one of the editing things that was a little challenge for me because in our earlier episodes, we didn't say like, "Hey, we're gonna go on a break. We'll be right back," and then it breaks.
Right.
I had to like look for spots where neither one of us were saying anything, and I'm like, kind of go in there like a surgeon, like put it in and take, So I'm kind of glad that we don't have to do the ads anymore because I think like that program like expired for us. So now I don't have to specifically put these fake ads in. I still might just because they're funny, but
just do fake ads for like fake products.
That's what my friends were telling me. Just do the same thing, but for either real companies or just fake ads for fake companies.
Our third.
Yeah, we did. We had an episode.
Christopher, we should start doing Power Thirst ads.
Yeah, just make a fake one.
Is anyone even fucking old enough to? Yeah, our listeners know what the fuck Power Thirst is.
Yeah,
most of them are our age.
Just make fake ads.
We have a couple listeners in their 20s though.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, hey, this show. We're talking about a show that is older than you. And,
yeah, isn't that weird?
Yet you're a fan of it, and enough of a fan of it to listen to us.
So thank you.
To me. Yeah, thank you.
I think it is becoming witching hour on Dan's end there.
You know what? I didn't even realize what time it was, to be honest.
Yeah, it's getting pretty late.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty late
I think we should probably start to wrap it up here. So that has been episode 50 of Too Much Energon. Now here on Too Much Energon, we rate things on the Too Much Energon scale, which ranges from not enough Energon to a sufficient amount of Energon to too much Energon. It's basically bad, okay, good. Dan, since you're a listener and our guest of the week, what would you rate this podcast? Too much Energon.
The first 50 episodes.
I'm on the podcast. I was a listener, so it's clearly a Too Much Energon for me. If anything, it's what's the middle one? The middle one is a grade for me because I listened to a good amount and then stopped, and then like a bunch of episodes came out that I didn't hear, and then I listened to some again. So there's definitely episodes that I haven't heard. So I grade myself not enough Energon, and I grade you guys too much Energon.
So averaged out, it's a sufficient amount of Energon.
Yeah, sufficient amount of Energon. Yeah.
All right, Cal, what are you gonna rate the podcast on the Too Much Energon scale?
They talk too much about a fucking 20-minute cartoon from the 90s. Not enough chicks. Sufficient amount of Energon.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they spend they spend like sometimes 3 fucking hours like talking about 22 minutes of a like dumb kids show from 25 years ago. Like one of them is like clearly tipsy in a few episodes. Like sometimes the audio cuts out here and there. Like, and one of them has bad teeth. Like,
And
so-
then the video came out that they started putting them on YouTube, and then they found out both of them have bad teeth.
yeah, it might even get a no energon from me.
No,
Honestly.
oh my god, no energy for your own show.
You have to weigh everything.
Yeah,
All
you
right,
gotta
fair
weigh
enough.
all the options.
That is a very good point. You're like, you talk. It's almost a 3-hour show sometimes to talk about 22 minutes of a TV show. That's pretty insane.
It introduced us to Raptorbot Chronicles.
That is true.
There you go.
I will say though, in all seriousness, I've been doing this one day shy of a year now. It's one of the highlights of my week, because I get to spend like upwards of 3 hours with just like bullshitting with someone who at this point honestly has become like one of my closest friends.
Thank
Same.
you. Oh, you're
Same.
talking
I love
about.
Dan, too. He beat me
Just-
to my own my joke.
We had the same joke.
And like just about like what like my favorite show from when I was 11 years old. Like how fucking cool is that? And we get to like do like bad impressions and like joke about like fucking eye lasers. And you know what? People actually listen to us.
Hey, if you get one listener, I mean, I get happy when I literally see one play on like an
Well-
episode. Like,
well-
so, you know, like if anyone's out there and listens to your show, like obviously I listen, but yeah, it's an exciting feeling when you know that with something you're putting out, someone is checking out. Someone
Yeah,
is enjoying.
We have one listener, and here you are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here you are.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to us and you're not on the show,
Yeah.
like you're not the one present here right now, you're not
It-
Dan, you can come on the show too.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll give you a
Subscribe
free
to us on
t-shirt so that you
Patreon.
can advertise the show.
Yeah.
So
We have
this,
said that in the past too.
this
We were like,
podcast
if
is
there's one guy that really likes it,
Come on the
we'll
show.
be happy.
this podcast is getting a too much energon from me.
Nice.
Personally, as a participant, it gets a too much energon from me.
As a listener.
Here's a question.
As a listener, though,
Here's a question for you guys. Because you guys literally do it more than me. So you do it twice a week, once a week. Do you see this as a sort of therapy? Because when I do it, sometimes because again, I've known my co-host for like 30 plus years. Sometimes we bring up stories, or sometimes one of us are telling stories that we haven't told the other one, or I bring up stuff that like from my past, like funny stories that like I feel like I would get more out on the podcast than I would telling a therapist. Like about like making fun of someone or someone shit talking somebody or a funny situation that I was embarrassed about 20 years ago. I feel like that doing my podcast. Yeah, there you go. I feel like doing the podcast is definitely a form of therapy, like very therapeutic, and doing it with one of my best friends, if not my best friend. Like it's a really great feeling when you get done an episode or even in the middle of it, and you're like, I'm just having a blast in this hour and a half long like moment. And then when it ends, you're like, wow, this is saved. This is recorded. I'm going to put this out in the world because I really like what I just did.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I always like make serious things and try to make a joke of them, but I have semi-seriously said to Christopher multiple times that like it kind of saved my life.
Dude. Yeah.
Like the pandemic, now I'm being rent evicted, not working, blah blah blah. If you just don't fucking do anything, you spiral into darkness. And I don't, it's one of those things where like Christopher and I are like, we need to hang out more. We need to hang out more. Oh geez, it's been 8 months. We need to hang out more. So like,
Oh
this
shit,
is
it's been 4 years since I've been to your house.
So this has been a way to like hang out. and we get to know each other more. And yes, it is like actually very therapeutic. And Christopher Siege has become like one of my best friends, and our humor has locked up like so much so that I can make a joke on our other podcast completely deadpan, and Christopher Siege will start like laughing or like wiping away tears or whatever, and the other two like hosts are like awkward smile laugh, and then they like continue, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't care. I made him laugh. I don't
Yeah.
even I don't even care. And maybe one person will laugh because they listen to Too Much Energon first,
And they know the joke. Yeah.
and they'll know
Yeah.
the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
Even if nobody else gets it,
there was
Siege
one thing
does, and
in particular with on an episode of a show that we do that I missed, and I still edited it and everything, but
he
so I'm
wasn't
listening
there,
to
but
it.
he edited it.
Yeah, so I'm listening to it, and Cal delivers a line like completely like straight and deadpan, and I just like messaged it, and I started laughing right away because like I knew exactly, like I knew he was joking, and I knew like what he meant, what he actually meant when he was saying that. So I messaged him right away and like quoted him and was like, "Fucking lol."
Fucking lol.
And it
Yeah,
wasn't an inside
it's a
joke.
rhythm.
It was my like style of humor. And because the other co-hosts thought I was actually being serious and began to talk about what I had just said that was clearly a
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah.
And that kind of made it funnier.
Like they were going with, yeah, that is actually funny. They don't know what they're kind of going with because you obviously were not
Yeah.
serious at all.
You know what? They're not going to listen. The quick joke was they were kind of like rambling on about like local traffic and like the weather, and basically the like cancer of a podcast of things you shouldn't talk about.
Yeah.
And so when I had started the segment, and I was like,
specifically, someone was like, "Oh yeah, like it was supposed to be about news," and like one of them was like, "Oh yeah, you know, I did some grocery shopping, and like the traffic was just was just horrible." And Cal responds with, "Any interesting news about the groceries or the traffic?"
Did the person actually responded and said no?
They
No.
responded like seriously.
And they started talking about like groceries or like the traffic.
Why? That's really, I mean,
And then I started laughing like 10 seconds, like as they started
you're like,
answering me.
actually,
And
I really don't give a fuck. I don't want to know. I don't care.
Those
Yeah,
little
it's
things like that are fun.
yeah, and like we're not saying this to like throw shade at them or anything like that.
No,
We're
the point
using
is that we understand each other's like humor.
yeah.
And like you said, you're friends with your co-host since you were 5. And if you can make the other person laugh and no listener
It's the best
laughs
feeling
or
in the
like
world.
understands it, it's therapeutic, and you're using it as hangout, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And if the listeners are with you throughout all this journey and they like you, then they're gonna like it even if they don't get it. They're gonna like it if you guys are having fun.
Yeah.
Totally. Speaking of having fun, we've had a lot of fun tonight. So and we've been going for over 2 hours now. So
Crazy. And it actually didn't feel like that. So just to give you guys credit, it definitely didn't feel like over 2 hours. So
yeah, it's been lots of fun. Best way to support the show is wherever you're listening to this. Give it a like, give it a subscribe, give it a 5-star rating. Anything helps us out. If you like Beast Wars, tell your friends about this show. Or if you know someone who likes Beast Wars and they aren't your friend, tell them about one of the other Beast Wars podcasts and not
I like
us.
that. I like that.
Patreon, patreon.com/lazorcomb, LAZORCOMB. For starting at $5 a month, you get bonus preamble audio, literally hours of it each week, and access to our Discord. $10 a month, you get our weekly dumb news show that we were just talking about, LaserComb Tonight. We're also launching a new, I think I mentioned it earlier, a new spin-off to Too Much Energon, where we talk about the Beast Wars comic book once a month. Too Much Galabar. That's at the $10 tier. The $25 tier gets you all of that. Also gets you a t-shirt. Gets you our monthly Too Much commentary show where we watch a dumb movie and laugh at it, basically.
We have one available for free where we do commentary over Batman and Robin.
Oh,
Yeah.
classic.
The classic top tier Batman movie.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
top tier. Yeah.
Yeah, best Batman.
Yeah, it's like Batman and Robin, The Dark Knight.
And then, yeah, it's all downhill from there.
Yeah.
Batman and Robin, Batman Forever,
The Adam West.
the Adam West Batman.
Yeah.
And that's it. You don't need to know anything.
Yeah, you don't need to watch the other ones. If you like canon.
Social media. I am on Twitter. I am at Lasercomb, LAZORCOMB. Cal, where can people find you?
I'm at NeoCal, Neo_KAL. And you can actually follow, if you just want to listen to episodes of the show and don't want to see my pictures of ducks that I upload, or Christopher bragging about how he's vaccinated, you could follow Too Much Energon itself at Too Much Energon. WTFamicom is on the Twitter sphere.
Yes. So I'm on Twitter and Instagram, just as WTFamicom. You can find me. I post pretty frequently. I don't think I have anything else. No, yeah, just those two. You can find our podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, literally anywhere you can get podcasts. I think I just wrote it recently. I think that we're on like 16 platforms, and half of them I don't really know. I just know we're on 16. If you enjoy game, yeah, it's like something you don't even know where you are. If anyone's listening to this and you enjoy gaming podcasts but also hate gaming podcasts at the same time, we're the podcast for you. We're two guys that have known each other for 30 years. Half the time we talk about the game we say we're going to talk about. So give us a listen. We come out with 2 episodes a month. If you're one of those people that go on bathroom breaks, obviously everyone shits. But go on a car ride and just need like a short podcast, we do a mini series called OM Game Boy, and they're literally 10 to 15-minute episodes. So they're very small, compact episodes. You can just listen to them. So yeah, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere you get podcasts.
Bad. Dan, what's a good intro WTFamicom like pod episode to listen to?
So the one that we've mentioned before is a good one, where it's about the Konami code, or we say it's about the Konami code. The Konami code is the famous video game cheat. Another one, a personal favorite of mine, is where it kind of changed everything for me. It's called We're Bored, WII''RE, like the Nintendo Wii. Yeah. And it only centered around Wii games of adaptations of board games. Because I was over my mom's house and I noticed she still owned a Wii last year, and she owned like 30 board games. So I'm like,
sounds about right.
I was like, anyone over the age of 55 owns a shit ton of board games and a Wii. So that is general consensus. And so I took that and I was like, all right, well, there's probably terrible adaptations of board games for the Wii. So I just combined the idea, and I kind of made fun of my mom too. I told this like crazy story about my mom that I've held on to for like 5 years, which is a really funny story about her visiting like a soul food restaurant. But that's one of my favorite.
Check that out.
That's literally one of my favorite, probably my most favorite episode. So the Konami code one, or the one called We're Bored. So.
All right. So
I'm actually going to check out that one. I didn't. Is that one a little bit earlier?
That was episode like 21.
20 or 21. Okay.
Yeah.
So listeners, if you've been listening to this show and you like me and Cal and think we're funny, go check out WTFamicom, because I think if you like us, you'll like them too.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree. We're on the same. We do definitely have the same rhythm.
Yeah, I think so.
Except if you like digestible chunks instead of our 3-hour long
Yeah.
extravaganzas.
They are extravaganzas. You're right.
which is what this one is creeping up on. But you know what? It's episode 50. God damn it!
Yeah, might as
It's
well
a
go out
milestone.
with a bang. Yeah.
Speaking of going out with a bang, we've been getting a lot of questions on social media lately. What is the future of Too Much Energon? And we've kind of been cagey about it
Nebulous.
because we finished Beast Wars proper like a month ago now, and we've kind of just been dragging our heels, like doing random shit for the past like few weeks, which has been a lot of fun. I've been quite enjoying it. But now we're going to announce what our plan is, and if you could probably figure out what it is. We'll be back next week with the first episode of Beast Machines.
Yes. I'm so excited.
Season
'cause
one, episode 1 of Beast Machines.
it's a wild show.
Yeah, I've already watched through the first, rewatched through the first, and I never really watched Beast Machines when I was younger because I watched like the first episode and was like, oh, this isn't Beast Wars. Click.
No.
But I rewatched through the first 3 episodes recently because I bought the DVD, and it's actually pretty damn good. Like when you unshackle it from like Beast Wars nostalgia and kind of just take it on its own merits, it's a really interesting show.
I have a confession. Actually, I've probably said this 7 times on the show. I have watched no Beast Machines.
You're in for a treat. You're definitely in
So
for a treat.
I'm actually pretty excited.
All right. So yeah, like I said, we'll be back next week with that. I want to thank our guest again, Dan from What the Famicom. Thanks for being on the show. It's great having
No
you.
problem.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks.
And yeah, listeners, go check out his show. That about does it. So we're gonna get out of here. This was episode 50 of Too Much Energon. And I've been one of your hosts, Christopher Siege.
And I'm your other host, NeoCal.
And
Oh, and me. Hey,
yeah,
I'm your guest, Dan. I've been your guest. I've been all of your guests.
He's always here in the back.
I'm literally always here. They just
Waiting.
don't know it. Yeah.
Watching, planning.
Planning the next episode while you guys aren't watching.
plotting to take over the show.
Yeah. What the Too Much Energon. Too much Famicom.
Yeah, they with our powers combined.
Too much Famicom.
Too much Famicom. Anyway, we're getting out of here. Bye-bye. Until next week, I am transformed.
Until next week's terrorized.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's our story from Gladiator Arena, Los Angeles, California. For Larry Zonka, I'm Mike Adamley. See you again next week for more exciting semifinal action.